Good evening, everyone. This is the City of Desert Hot Springs regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as a successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board for Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. This is our 6 p.m. regular session. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Betts.
Present.
Councilmember Nunez.
Here.
Councilmember Pai.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
Present.
And Mayor Mattis.
Present. Before we get to the rest of our agenda, just for some housekeeping here, if you're here for item 2, which is a public hearing in compliance with the Proposition 218, and you have a protest, there is a clerk sitting there with a computer, Karma Z, and she can actually log that, correct? Okay, good. All right, we're going to move to our invocation. Tonight we have Pastor Thomas Turrett from Covenant Church here to give the invocation. After that, Ms. Pai, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thanks, folks, for an opportunity to pray. Father, we thank you for an opportunity, Lord God, to minister goodness, Lord God, to our city through these, your members, Lord God, that make the decisions as our government over our city. Thank you for your grace, love, and kindness, Lord God. I pray, we pray and agree for your great wisdom to help them in making their decisions for the security, for the safety, and the prosperity of our city and its people. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Ms. Pai?
Begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are now going to go to the City Attorney's report on closed session. We do have an important announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We do have one reportable action item. The City Council voted 5-0 to enter into a settlement and release agreement between the Sierra Club, Oswald Land Trust, and the City of Desert Hot Springs and Seafried Industrial Properties. Basically, the Sierra Club and some of the terms and conditions are the Sierra Club and Oswald Land Trust will be withdrawing their appeal of a planning commission decision once their legal fees are paid for, and they will also be waiving further litigation. The Appendix A of the settlement agreement, which will be, it is currently now public record, provides developers' obligations. Some of those developers' obligations include renewable energy and energy efficiency terms, transportation terms, and on-site equipment terms. And Exhibit B to the agreement has certain city obligations, and the city obligations primarily are to ensure that the agreement does get enforced. And that concludes my reportable action item.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the approval of the agenda. At this time, City Council may amend the order of the agenda, approve the consent calendar, move items from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action, and add any urgency items. Before we have you pull anything, is there anybody that would like to speak on any consent items on our agenda? Please come forward. I see none. Is there anyone that would like to pull any items from the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda and the consent calendar.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second. We do have a motion and a second. We'll wait for it to come on our screen. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Next will be public comments. This is the time. At this time, pursuant to the Brown Act, any person may comment on matters of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council not listed on the agenda. Speakers may not yield their time to others without consent of the mayor. All comments are to be directed to the City Council, shall be devoid of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during public comments. I have no speaker cards at this time. If anybody's here to speak on any item that's not on the agenda, this would be the time to do so. Let's see. Okay, we do have one young lady that's coming forth. If you can just state your name for the record, you'll probably have to push that button right there and it'll turn red. There you go. Just state your name.
Stephanie Janelle Hernandez.
It's all yours.
All right, let me open up my phone. All right, hello members of City Hall. My name is Stephanie Hernandez. I have been a resident in Desert Hot Springs since August of sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Take your time.
1998. I have seen this city grow, remembering what it was like 23 years ago, and what it is now. I have a family. We purchased our first home here in the city of DHS because we wanted to raise our children where we grew up. I am here to talk to you about a situation that was brought to my attention, that the home address 66095 on San Juan Road is becoming a sobriety home. This location is in a residential area. It's close to 4 out of the 7 public schools, 2 recreational parks, 3 child cares, and a little league field in the rec center. We are a large demographic ranging from elementary to high school and the elderly who also walk the area. I feel that the sobriety house does not belong where it is being placed due to the families in our neighborhood. Kids walk to school every day. I speak for myself as a parent. But I also feel that it should be reevaluated. It's a for-profit business. My other fear is who will be living there, a new group every couple months. Possible, addicts with possible criminal past, possible sex offenders. How do we allow our children to play outside? I'm not okay with this. The Ordinance Government Code Section 65582 is over 40 years old. The city is not what it was 40 years ago. We now have a population of 32,000, and I feel that the city needs to think about the families and the citizens that live in it and change the ordinance.
Thank you very much. We're going to have the staff reach out to you.
Okay.
And we'll, it takes a lot to stand up there and say how you feel.
I know, I'm so nervous.
Good job. 66095 San Juan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no other speaker cards. Would anybody like to speak on any items that are not on the agenda tonight? All right. We're going to close public comments at this time. We'll go to City Manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We have 3 updates from our Finance Director first.
Good evening. So our financial highlights as of June 6, 2022, for fiscal year 21-22, our revenues are over $21 million, which is at 66% of the budget. At this time last year, our revenues were at $19.9 million, which was 78% of the budget. And 2 years ago, the revenues were 17.6, which were also at 78% of the budget. The city actually has received the deposit from the county for the second round of property taxes, which includes property tax and the parcel tax, and we've also received the second half of the triple flip VLF. These were just received recently, and the finance department hasn't finished processing those payments yet. So these revenue numbers actually will be a little higher for this fiscal year. And for expenditure-wise, this fiscal year we've had $23.3 million, which is 74% of the amended budget. Last year at this time we're at $20.8 million, which was 77% of the budget. And 2 years ago we were at $19.8 million at 82% of the budget.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And now we'll move to Public Works.
Good evening. We are continuing the park upgrade projects. We will be bringing a project closeout presentation to the City Council when it is completed. We are continuing the Police Department Dispatch Center TIs. We anticipate completion of this construction on time. We will bring a project closeout presentation to Council when it is completed as well. We received concerns about the heights of the speed bumps at Tedesco Park. All 4 bumps were confirmed to be within the height requirements of a speed bump. The minimum is 2 inches to a maximum of 6 inches. The highest measurement was 4.5 inches. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And finally, our Executive Program Director.
Good evening. I wanted to invite all of you and members of the community to the Little League closing ceremonies this Saturday, June 11th at 10 a.m. at Wardman Park. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Mayor and council members' comments. Start with Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I better move up the computer there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Along with my colleagues all up here, we attended the various Memorial Day events throughout the city, VFW, and our own Veterans Park, as well as the street naming for our high school valedictorians and the DHS high school graduation ceremony, which was fantastic. You know, whenever you feel a little frustrated at the state of the world, there's really nothing like speeches at a high school graduation to kind of get you out of it. And we have some absolutely amazing students here in the city. And they're all heading off to start their lives and make the world a better place. And you learn that listening to them at a high school graduation. I wish them well and hope that most of them return and put their skills and passion to work in this city in the future. We'll all be better off for it. Also wanted to congratulate the Friends of the Desert Hot Springs Library for being awarded a grant from the Berger Foundation for $25,000. I got to stand in for Ms. Pye the other day over there when they accepted it. It was great fun holding up those giant checks. It'll be used to enhance programs at the library. The Friends is a great organization presenting author talks, other events, helping out at the library. In fact, if you haven't gone to any of their author talks, they usually are really quite good. I was at one just a week or so ago given by Luis Fuentes. Y'all know who Luis Fuentes was? Okay. He was the cameraman for the late California icon Huell Hauser, whose PBS show California Gold is still on the air, and great way to learn about California history. His talk was, well, to use the vernacular of the show, it was amazing. And so is the $25,000 check from the Berger Foundation. And last, Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy met, and we gave a grant to Riverside County to begin some preliminary planning on, this is going to be really exciting if we can do this, a possible large regional park here in Desert Hot Springs. A couple of locations we're looking at, so hopefully we'll have more on that later next year. So that's all I've got, sir.
Mr. Betts.
Excuse me, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Riverside County Transportation Committee Budget and Implementation Committee meeting, filling in as alternate for the mayor. Weekly meetings with city staff. Met at Sunline, a representative on the Sunline Transit Agency Board. They're presently working through labor agreements, nothing affecting ridership yet, but we're wondering. Attended the Veterans Day ceremony. The street naming was really nice to see these very, very bright young women. I think one's going to be, I don't know, was it?
I think they're both going to UCLA.
UCLA physics and chemistry or something. I mean, they're very, very bright students. And I just want to take a moment to say that we're really lucky to have Desert Hot Springs High School. If you forget all the noise and pay attention to what's going on there, it's a very tough curriculum. And these two students that got their name on the street sign, there's a whole bunch of other kids there at that school that they just didn't get their name on the sign, but they're doing really very, very well. And so we get a bad rap sometimes, and that's from what I've seen and paid attention. I've got a grandson in school there, and I see his lesson plans, and it was way tougher than what we went through when we were in high school. Attended the Mission Springs Water District meeting via remote Zoom, watching what's going on there. And then all I have is one question for staff, and basically for the benefit of the public, bringing up an issue here is we've had a lot of complaints about the traffic speeding and reckless driving on Palm Drive between the I-10 and Dillon. And the latest video was somebody passing on the right, darting 2 lanes over to the left and bolting down the center divider. And I know we're working on getting extra patrols. Our police do a great job in what they've got to do, but it's really hard for them to split off for traffic duty when they've got something else going on. So we got this idea to get Highway Patrol to come in under contract. And since it's been announced to everybody, there's a delay in that. Could you explain what we have going on with that so that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, so the police chief reached out to the CHP and started to work on a contract to hire supplemental patrols on Palm Drive. And unfortunately, at this time, because of a lack of staffing, they're not able to meet the contract requirements. So we'll follow up with them in a few months.
Okay, so we've got some other secret plan to control that traffic in the meantime, so the speeding, reckless drivers don't think there's nothing going to happen, right?
Yeah, there are some options that they can work with us on. We just couldn't go to the length that we wanted to with the contract.
Okay, I'd like to encourage staff to double down on that one because it's getting bad out there. It seems like there's roadway anarchy going on. People aren't stopping at stop signs anymore. It's bad. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nunez.
I'll let Jen go first. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jen.
What if I don't want to? I just wanted to make note that Ms. Hernandez was spoken to by the chief of police. The Elks, through a gratitude grant, is providing a book giveaway at the library on June 11th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And Maria Hernandez of the Elks is offered gratitude for that grant. Also, the Palm Springs Scouts and their sponsor, Bert Liberitz, will be assisting the Elks with Flag Day. This celebration of our flag history is open to everyone and will start at 5:30 and dinner will be served. Also, the Senior Center is having a Juneteenth Freedom Day, and it is on April 20th, and it is from 12:30 to 3:30 p.m. Frank Elmore is the facilitator, and there will be door prizes and video. You are asked to make a reservation by calling the Senior Center at 760-329-0222. And that's it for the Senior Center. Now, also, last month we had flyers put up for help me.
Flyer for last month?
Yes. Never mind. It'll come back to me.
Asian Pacific Month?
Yes. And the Senior Center did Cinco de Mayo, and we should celebrate the diversity of all of our communities. We have, this is from the Library of Commerce, Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month is currently celebrated each year in the month of June to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan. The Stonewall Uprising was a tipping point for the gay liberation movement in the United States. In the United States, the last Sunday in June was initially celebrated as Gay Pride Day, but the actual day was flexible. In major cities across the nation, the day soon grew to encompass a month-long series of events. Why do we celebrate LGBT History Month? We mark LGBT plus History Month because we need to acknowledge the achievements and barriers met by those who came before us, the mark and learned from their successes and mistakes, their lives and their deaths. Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nunez.
I should have went first. I think it's hard to follow that. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Just a little brief history for me. We did street naming ceremony for the high school valedictorians for Desert Hot Springs High School, which is great to see. We had two best friends get the award. So getting their names on the street was something special to see. For you to get a chance, please drive that. It's on Chola, correct? Chola and,
Yes.
and Pearson. Want to say congratulations to all the Desert Hot Springs High School class of 2022. It's very exciting, my first graduation to attend, and man, it was really nice. They did, the principal did an excellent job. The speakers did, I mean, the girls that spoke just gave me a heartfelt tear come down my eyes. So it was great. It was great to see that. I want to also say congratulations to Aran Orozco, the MMA champion that fought this past weekend. She did win. She did win the bout, so I'm happy for her. I'm hoping that we can get her up here soon to congratulate her for that win. I want to say happy Father's Day coming up. Just an early, since we're not going to meet until afterwards, so I just want to say happy early Father's Day. The only thing I have for staff, Mr. Mayor, is that I met with a couple of residents 2 weeks ago, and they were asking if we're looking to see we're going to put in electric car stations. I know we only currently have one in the city, so I know this is going to be a dire need as we start to grow and start to head in that direction. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Great. I was asked to speak at Career Day at Painted Hills Middle School. It's always, I just love speaking to classes. That's one of the best parts about being mayor, I'll tell you. There's a lot of good parts about it, but one of the best parts is when you get to speak to the youth of our community. And I've done this a couple times at different schools, and I want to say Painted Hills Middle School had some of the most respectful kids I've ever spoken in front of. You usually get a little bit of a crowd of one or two that want to, show off that they're the alpha in the room, and I usually let it happen, and I usually get them engaged. But these kids were really engaged, and a lot of them have some great ideas for our school. So thank you, Painted Hills Middle School, for inviting me to do that. I wanted to say thank you to Jeff Cole at the VFW, the new commander there. He invited the whole city council down for the Memorial Day event Saturday before Memorial Day. In the past, we've always competed with our events and their events, and he really wants to build a bridge with the city and make sure that we have that partnership. And so I wanted to say thank you to him and Fred and all the others down there that are doing a lot of good things for our veterans here in our communities. So it was very nice to be able to speak to them on that Saturday. As everybody's mentioned, the Desert Hot Springs graduation happened, and Mr. Nunez and I were very proud parents as we both had graduating kids that night. 327 kids have now graduated this year from our high school. It was the first graduation. I think we've all been back since COVID. We prided ourselves, I think, as city councils of always attending these graduations, whether it was our families or not. And so it was really nice. That morning of each graduation, they do a valedictorian street naming, and we've picked the corner of Cholla and Pearson Boulevard to name the street after the valedictorian. At the end of the year, they get to take the sign home legally and put it on their wall. And so this year is the second time in just a few years that we've had double valedictorians. So you'll see two signs up there. They both graduated with the same grade point average. They are both really good friends, if not best friends, and they're both going to UCLA. So April Martinez and Daisy Nayuti, I'm sorry, I know I messed that up. Congratulations to both of you about graduating top of your class out of 327 students and representing our city well. So really excited with that. I was also asked to speak at the CDAR, which is the California Realtors here. I know there's more letters in there and I can't think of them offhand, but they're out of Palm Desert there. Each year they ask the mayors from each city to come in individually, so this was Desert Hot Springs' turn, and it's still virtual, so we were able to do that from my office and give an update on Desert Hot Springs. A lot of interest in Desert Hot Springs, and I believe there was about 27 people online that day, so it was nice to see. Little League's ending. Did I say, not to say that in a happy way. Little League's ending, the season's ending. I know Roberta's smiling big now. Roberta's our executive program director, and she oversees Little League right now. And it can be a challenge. I was president for a couple of years, and it's a challenge when you've got passionate parents and kids and everybody in our community. But it's a great program. We had around, I think, 400 kids this year participate, and it's coming to an end. It doesn't mean it's coming to an end completely because we move on to All-Stars, so it Desert Hot Springs, I believe, is hosting a tournament or two. And so there'll be some more Little League play here in our community for the next month or so. And then the season will end and we'll move on to next season. But I've been volunteering for many years and I just really, really enjoy it. So I just want to give a shout out if you have a chance, 10 o'clock, even though it's going to be 150 degrees out, please come out Saturday and you can see all the kids. They do little trophies and have little, it's a nice little event. I did attend the CVAG, Coachella Valley Association of Governments Transportation Committee meeting yesterday morning at 10 o'clock for the city of Desert Hot Springs. And then I attended the executive committee for Coachella Valley Association of Governments for the city of Desert Hot Springs in the afternoon at 4:30. And the reason I'm just going to combine those two together was one main discussion. And the discussion was on AB 2237, 2438, and 1778. These bills were not supported at Riverside County Transportation. It's moved down to Coachella Valley Association of Governments. The Senate, I'm sorry, they weren't AB, they're SBs. I'm sorry, Senate bills. These Senate bills are taking local control of our transportation dollars away from us, or trying to, and they're trying to fold them into the California transportation plans. Again, this is taking local control away from us. So Measure A, which you go to the gas pump, and we're all paying a lot at the gas pump right now, some of those fees come back, and that's the way your roads are fixed here in our community. Unfortunately, there's some legislators in Sacramento that believe they should be able to program that money themselves. And for Desert Hot Springs, it's not a lot of money that we get from Measure A, comparably to other cities and other counties. So we have to keep control of this. I made a decision to support it as it was a unanimous decision, except for in transportation, the city of Palm Springs deferred to their mayor for the executive committee, which then Palm Springs did support it. So it was supported unanimously by RCTC and Riverside and Coachella Valley Association of Governments to oppose those three Senate bills. No, I'm wrong. It is Assembly bills. I'm so confused right now. It is Assembly bills. I'm sorry. There was another Senate bill. But these Assembly bills, again, take away local control, and I think it was very important to support our local control. And I don't want to be political, and we're not supposed to be political up here, but this is where you have to remember in the future, whichever side of the aisle you sit on, or where you sit, or if you don't, if you walk the middle, representing people that have been at the local level and understand how important it is really important in the future when they get to Sacramento or even DC. Just please remember that. I was very fortunate this year to be the chosen council member to go to International Conference of Shopping Centers with staff. I wanted to say thank you to Doria, Danny, Eric, Patricia, and Melissa, who all attended from this city, and they did a fantastic job. We were up there for 2 days, and we made a lot of great contacts. And as you were saying, electric cars, stations, that's a big talk up there right now, and there's actually, they're not called gas stations, I don't even know what to call it, electric stations are being developed today. You see them along the freeways now. Those are 200 volts. There's actually stations that are being planned to be built that'll be 450 volts. So instead of waiting 30 minutes to charge your car, it's at 10 minutes. So this is coming. I think it's a good discussion to be having now because we have the land for this stuff to be built on. So how you're going to tax that in the future, I don't know. Let's figure out Measure B. Or is that the SB? Yeah, SB. I hope you voted today. If you had your chance at your freedoms in this country is to be able to vote. You might not agree with who represents you, but at least you give your opportunity. And if you don't vote, as my father used to say, then don't say anything. I don't know if that's true or not. And then I just want to remind everybody, this is our first meeting in June. There'll be one more meeting in June, one in July, and then the City Council takes approximately 6 weeks off for the summer, unless there's an emergency item that needs to come forth. So please be aware of that. If you're hanging out in the summer, want a cool place, and you come here, we're not here, that's the reason why. All right, we're going to move on. I know a lot of you aren't here just to listen to us talk. You're here for certain reasons, so we're going to move on to the public hearings, which is item number 2. The public hearing in compliance with Prop 218 to consider a resolution approving the solid waste fee increase. Mr. Porras, our Assistant City Manager, is this going to be you?
Yes.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. On April 19th, City Council adopted a resolution setting the date of June 7th, 2022 for a public hearing to consider an increase in solid waste fees in compliance with Prop 218. The proposed fee increases to the solid waste fees are due to three main set of fees. The first set are new fee increases to comply with state mandated Senate Bill 1383, which is the Organic Recycling Services Ordinance, or Organic Recycling Services Senate Bill. The second set of fees are for a new bulky item program. And the third set of fees are increases in fees adjusted by the percentage change in consumer price index for this region, or CPI. In accordance with state law, the city must follow procedures to increase solid waste fees. The proposed fee increases are to recover costs. Proposition 218 requires notifications of the proposed fee increase to be sent to the record owner, the tenant, and the tenant of each identified parcel upon which a new or increased waste fee being proposed for adoption at least 45 days in advance of the public hearing. In compliance with this requirement, on April 22nd, 2022, Desert Valley Disposal mailed a total of 10,598 notices, both in English and in Spanish, to property owners and tenants identifying the proposed fee increases. The notices give each property owner or tenant the right to submit a written or oral protest against the proposed fee increases by mail or in person to the city clerk no later than the conclusion of today's public hearing. The notices that were mailed out included a protest form that property owners or tenants could fill out and submit to the city clerk. In addition, notices were published according to law in the newspaper and general circulation. During tonight's public hearing, City Council will conduct a public hearing, take public testimony, make comments of the proposed fee increases. Note that oral comments of the public hearing will not qualify as formal protests unless accompanied by a written protest. We do have our city clerk in the back of the room today that can take those written protests and for accountability. At the public hearing, the city would consider all protests against the proposed fee increase. The city clerk will report at the end of the public hearing what was the total number of the protests that were received. If the written protests against the fees are presented by majority of the owners equal to or more than 5,300 protests, the city shall not impose the fee. If there is no majority protest, the city council would then consider a resolution to adopt the proposed fee increases. When the city considers the adoption, the city must make 5 different findings. The first finding is the revenues from the proposed fee increases should not exceed the funds required to provide the services. The second one, the revenues from the proposed fee increases should not be used for any purposes other than for which the proposed fee is imposed. The third one, the amount of proposed fee increase per parcel should not exceed the proportional cost of the service. The fourth one, the proposed fee increases will be actually used or shall be immediately available for use. And the fifth one is the proposed fee increases will not be used for general government services, including police, fire, ambulance, and or library services. That is the process that will take today. Now I'll explain the 3 sets of the proposed fees. The first set are fees related to Senate Bill 1383. In 2016, the state approved Senate Bill 1383, which established statewide targets to reduce organic waste disposal by 50% by 2020 and 75% by 2025. It also set targets to increase edible food recovery to 20% by 2025. As a result, CalRecycle developed regulations to achieve the state's organic waste diversion goals by requiring all businesses, residents, and multifamily apartments to have access to recycling programs that capture food scraps, landscaping waste, and other organic waste materials. On May 17th, 2022, the City Council adopted an ordinance that incorporated these new SB 1383 state mandates into the city's municipal code. In order to meet all of the SB 1383 state mandates and the aligned new services and new fees will need to be established and implemented. The following is a summary of the new SB 1383 monthly service fees. Residential services will be an increase of $8.60 per dwelling per month. The commercial services will be an increase of 6.09% of the total fee. Roll-off services will have an increase of 1.89% of the total fee. The second set of fees are related to a new bulky item program. In recent years, the city has experienced an increase in illegal dumping throughout the city. Illegal dumping occurs throughout the entire city. Majority of illegal dumping is a result of unwanted bulky items that are not properly disposed or not called in for proper bulky item pickup. In an effort to address the need for bulky item waste collection to reduce the illegal dumping, a new weekly bulky waste collection program was developed. This program will offer weekly bulky item pickup to all residential dwellings, including multifamily dwellings and commercial establishments serviced by carts and bins. The program is a new program, and in addition to all the existing bulky item programs and vacant land illegal dumping program. This new program will be an additional service at an additional new cost and fee, and the costs are as follows. For single-family dwellings, the increase would be $3.95 per month. For multifamily dwellings, it will also be $3.95 per month. For multifamily dwelling bins, for each weekly pickup per month, if you have a 2 cubic yard, it'll be $8.41. A 3 cubic yard will be $12.61. A 4 cubic yard, it will be $16.82. And the last set of fees are fees related to inflation or consumer price index for this region. That concludes my staff report, and I'll answer all questions at the end of the public hearing. The city clerk will report the total number of protests against these fees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very detailed report. Thank you. I know it's a very complicated issue. We're going to go to entertaining questions to staff from the city council. This isn't the time to debate or give your opinions. This is time to ask questions. Ms. Pye? Mr. Gardner?
One question.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the fees for the bulky item pickup, it's $3.95 per house, single-family residence house.
Correct. Per
And
month.
$3.95 for multifamily dwelling. So would that mean, say, an apartment complex of 6 or 8 units is still paying $3.95, or is it
Each unit.
$3.95 per unit?
Each unit,
Okay, thank you.
each customer, in other words.
Thank you.
Mr. Nunez, do you have any questions for staff on this item?
At this time, no.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing at this time. We're going to take public testimony in favor. Do you have, did anybody fill out cards or am I? Okay. All right. So anyone that's in favor of the fee increase, please come forward. Don't rush the podium. I am sorry. I know I shouldn't be making light of the situation, but I understand the tension that could be here. So there's going to be 2 other options for you to speak. One will be under opposition or neutral position. The first one will be opposition. If you're in opposition of the fee increase, you may come forward. You'll state your name. When you state your name, you can begin your comments. We do ask that you try to stay under 3 minutes if you can. We can't stop you if you want to continue, but we ask that you try to make your comments and allow others to be able to speak also. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Catherine Butterfield, and I currently use my organic waste advantage of the 4 bins per week about 2 or 3 times a week. I can't understand that would be a drastic increase for me. If it's $8 a bin, that would be huge. And actually think I'm doing the county a service by putting my organic waste out. The other thing is, I don't understand why, when in Northern California, they have stores at the dump where people bring their stuff for free, the dump is free, and their bulk items are put on sale, and they collect fees that way. I don't know why we have such high fees for dumping when other counties in our state are able to handle it in a completely different way of recycling the unwanted products and collecting fees for it. Okay, I guess that's the end of my protest, except that it's just way too much money. If I put out 4 bins twice a month and I'm going to get charged $8 and something like that for a bin of organic waste, why so much? I don't get it. And it's just yard waste, and I'm taking away a fire hazard by putting that stuff out. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
And just so you know, we won't be having a back and forth discussion. This is your time to speak. Staff will be taking some of your comments, and during our debate, they can answer some of these questions. Thank you. Next
Thank
speaker.
you.
Hello, my name is David Carp. I'm a long-term DHS resident. I've been here over 20 years. When I received a notice of a public hearing for proposed increases to the Desert Valley disposal solid waste fees, I was shocked at the outrageous amounts requested for their services. This could not have come at a worse time. when we are already having to deal with the effects of COVID, loss of income, massive inflation, and rising rents. DHS is a low-income community with a high proportion of retired seniors on their fixed income, largely dependent upon their Social Security benefits, which are tied to the cost of living index. The COLA, cost of living adjustment, for this year was only 5.9%. DVD proposes to increase their fee for a standard residential 3-cart bundle from $28.73 to $42.80, a whopping 49%. This would place a heavy burden on our residents, with some 31% living below the poverty line. I'm curious about how much of the increase would actually go to the wages of the hard-working DVD line employees, and how much would go to their CEOs. The notice of hearing was written in legalese, difficult or impossible for the average resident to decipher, and including a half-page protest form tucked away where it would largely be unnoticed. It was stated that the increases would be enacted as of July 1st, unless protest forms were submitted by a majority of DHS residents, obviously impossible. I'm aware that my protest will fall on deaf ears, but I'm here with a few others to vent my anger and show that I'm not a happy camper. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
During public, ladies and gentlemen, during public hearings, so we ask that you do not clap or what. Hold on a second, Virginia, before you start. I have to say this. So during public hearings, it's a legal procedure with the state of California, and we ask that you don't clap. And I know it's for what you guys are mostly here for, but it could be an intimidation to people not wanting to speak. So we don't want to stop someone from wanting to speak. Thank you.
Yep.
Please go forward. Ma'am, your microphone's off. You're going to have to press that button right in front of you. I apologize.
I did press the button.
I think it turned it off.
Oh,
It
I
was
see,
already
okay.
on. Got it.
I haven't been here before.
No worries. Go right
I've
ahead.
only lived in Desert Hot Springs for 40 years plus. And I protest also the raise in the garbage prices. I have rentals in this town, and in a year's time, it's going to cost me $1,000 just about for the rise in the garbage prices. And there's a number of people that can hardly pay their rent. There's older people, there's people with families, they can't afford all these high raises. And at this time also, I agree with the man that was just up here. We just got over, or we're getting over, or not quite over COVID. And the rise in the gas prices and everything else. There's not going to be a renter left in this city. I'm going to have to sell everything. And that's fine with me, but you're not going to have any places to rent. So I agree very much with the last two speakers, and I'm very angry also. I think it's very unfair for older people and for younger families with children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments tonight. Next speaker, please.
Sir, my name's Renee Billman. I've been in Desert Hot Springs or in the Coachella Valley since the early 80s. I received some documentation from the city of Desert Hot Springs for the public notice. Your paper here. And as this gentleman stated, it said that our cost increase would be, and this is Exhibit B from the documents that you sent me, it'd be $8.60 a month for SB 1383 for outreach, education, monitoring, reporting, container labeling. I'm not quite sure what that is because it doesn't have any address or anything on it at my house, so I'm paying for something that I'm not quite sure what that is. And carts and weekly collection. Now, I can understand the increase on the collection. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with in this particular case is the container labeling, the education, the monitoring, and the outreach. I have to pay for that for the next 3 years, because when this goes into effect on July 1st, it will be in effect to July of 2026. So why am I paying for container labeling on a product that's only going to come to my house one time for 36 months? I don't understand that. Okay, so we have $8.60, and then we have $3.95 for the bulky waste collection. That comes to $12.55. When I go to your chart, which is Exhibit A, on the price increase, I'm currently paying $28.73. Your proposed new tax or billing rate would be $42.80. That's $14.07. $12.55 on this page and $14.07 on this page. No consistency in pricing whatsoever. Now, you have two other additional costs besides that, and that is...
Ma'am, could you move towards the mic? I'm
Sure.
sorry. Thank you.
So besides the monthly increase that we're not quite sure what that is because the prices are different on two different sheets of paper, plus you have an 89-cent charge and a 17-cent charge and all this other stuff, which comes out to be $15.13, not $12.55. So what is it? I want to know what I'm paying. So besides those costs, you have two additional charges. You have the tip fee component, which says that we're being billed once a year from July the 1st to June the 30th of the next year. What it says here is the roll-off service material tip fee will be based on the actual tip fee at time of collection. At time of collection. That means that that price can change 4 times a month. Not so, if that's possible, do they take it over a 12-month period and then decide, prorate it and give me a cost? Because we can't see it. We don't know what that is yet. Plus, it's 7.6% besides of the total. Then you go to the customer service component, which is an additional cost. And that's also, we don't know what it is because it's the CPI plus a percentage of additional taxes on that. So besides what you're proposing for a monthly cost, which we don't know exactly what that is because you've provided us some different numbers here, we have two other additional costs that you can't even propose what that's going to be because the cost is related to the waste, the Desert Valley, the solid waste disposal company that's going to take our waste from DHS, and whatever their price may be, because you didn't tell me what the company is, so I'm assuming we don't have a contract with them or we would have a base price for a year. We're also paying in the arrears. So what is it that we're actually going to be paying? That's what I want to know, because I'm sitting on a fixed income because I just retired.
Move towards the mic.
And I'm not understanding what the price is. Can you tell me what the price is? I have it. I can tell you exactly what this said. I read every single solitary word 2 or 3 times. I got it highlighted. I got it fixed. I've got it figured out. Computerized. I've taken your numbers, and I can't get a cost that's absolute on any piece of paper you've provided me. Before I put my money on the line, and I assume you too, because I'm here not only for me, but for all of you who live in Desert Hot Springs, I want to know what the hell I'm paying every month. And when you give me my bill, which I just received from you, that I pay mid-year, it's $646 in the arrears. There's no breakdown of costs. I want to see what I'm paying the waste people. I want to see what that 6.7% is on top of the CPI annually. I want to know what I'm paying weekly when you do your dumping before I decide that I'm going to put my money towards something or my vote towards something that you can't give me a solid answer of what my cost is going to be a month. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this item in opposition? All right, we'll move to neutral. Anybody in neutral position would like to speak? All right, this will be the final call for any comments at this time. So before I close the public hearing, this is your last opportunity, whether you're in favor, opposed, or a neutral position before I close the public hearing. We are going to close the public hearing at this time, and the city council will go to discussion. Before we get into city council discussion, we repeat some of the questions that were brought forward. Is there any questions that the staff would like to answer that were brought forward first?
Sure, I think I
Thank
can
you.
answer a couple of them. The first one was the fees per customer. They're not per dwelling, they're per customer per month. And the fees are for a single family home or for multifamily or for a commercial has one bin, it's an additional $8.60 per month. For the solid waste fees for the commercial program for the state mandated, the bulky item is a separate program, is $3.95. That entire total goes from $28.73 to $42.80. The rest of the items that are labeled here are for additional services, not for your standard services. Any standard service goes from $28.73, which is current, to $42.80, and it can't go higher than that. That's the maximum rate.
Ma'am, there will be no more comments. I already stated that. I'm sorry. It's a law of the state of California how the public hearings work. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's nothing else I can do to have you participate at this time.
And the fees for will only be assessed beginning the actual services. Right now, the Riverside Disposal has ordered all the bins that need to be ordered and also their equipment. They were scheduled to be here in October, and now there's a little bit of delay. They're expecting to start in January. There for their first year, they'll only be assessed from January to July, which is the 6 months, not the entire 12 months. So what that says is it's only the services whenever the actual services start. For the labeling, public outreach, education, reporting, those are all state requirements that the city has to do and provide justification and provide all the reporting to the state on an annual basis. And that's all incorporated into the same fees that are the $8.60 per month. And there is a nexus study that identifies the total cost and then divides it by each customer. That's the nexus that was established and is established for every standard fee. Hopefully I kind of understand.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know we're going to go down the line. Everybody just breathe. This is going to be a process. I know everybody's anxious to get to it. At first, it's very hard as council members to try to balance what is important for our community. Somebody has to pay for the waste to go somewhere. And Desert Valley Disposal has been a good partner with the city of Hot Springs over a lifetime. And if you do the research, you'll find that to be. Now, when it comes to some of these comments that have been made tonight, these are out of our hands. These are state mandated. If you don't pay for it in an increase to your services, then you'll pay for it with the general fund, which you pay your property taxes and other things through, which will take away from police officers, road repairs, those types of things. So somewhere it has to be paid for, correct? I think we can all be on that page. So we have to make a decision tonight as a council, which is not an easy decision to make, on whether we go forth with these increases or not. But someone's going to pay for them. You can't just leave your trash wherever you want and get it picked up when you want and not pay for it to be. It's state mandated. And that again goes back to who is in Sacramento and who is forcing us to do some of these things. I know that our trash hauler has been here many times to talk about this process and has had many meetings with our city council, our staff. And this agenda item is very thick and a lot of pages to read, and this isn't something I think any of us are going to be taking very lightly tonight. I think there's a lot of concerns that are very important to everybody here in this community, and a few of you had the courage to stand up here and give your protest in person, which is very noble, and we appreciate that. But again, it's really a lot of those, almost all of that, except for a very, very slim amount of it, is state mandated and something that we have to consider going forward. So that's where I'll start. I'm sure there'll be a round robin here. I know that Mr. Gardner and Mr. Betts had their hands up, so I'll start with Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one question for Mr. Porras. Did I hear you correctly, and maybe it may have to go to Mr. Cunningham, you said that the organic waste piece now will not start until January 1, correct?
Correct.
So between July 1 and January 1, that $8 and change fee won't be imposed until January 1. Correct. Is that what I understood you to say?
Yes, so the taxes are annual. If it's an annual, so instead of charging 12 months, it'll be 6 months.
But those are put on the property tax rolls.
Correct.
Which are about to be finalized for the next year. So we are finalizing them with only a
6 months.
6 month increase.
Yes.
For the organic waste portion of it, correct?
Correct.
All right, I just had one question. I'll take my comments for a little bit later.
Mr. Betts?
So I didn't catch the last speaker's name, but she had a question, and she mentioned something called tip-off collection fee. I'm not entirely familiar with all these terms, but is that like a tip-off dumpster? Is that what that is?
I believe she was mentioning the tipping fee for the actual trash getting where it's going.
Okay, so
Can you
that
explain
all-
that? Since he's asking it, can you explain that? I'm concerned, I wouldn't have.
Yeah, go
like,
for
no-
it.
There's a tipping fee that's charged when the actual solid waste is accepted by whatever it's taken to it. That's called a tipping fee. I believe that's
Explain
the-
what a tipping fee is.
Tipping fee, it's called a tipping fee because it's tipped over. It's just the acceptance of the actual solid waste.
Is it the weight?
It's a weight, right.
Chris here
Yes,
from
by weight
Cpi.
fee.
Ma'am, I'm not going to ask you again. This will be the last time you're asked. If not, you'll be asked to leave the chambers. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, and residents in the community. Appreciate the time. Yeah, a tipping fee is just a term used for a tipping floor. So every facility we take a material to, whether it's trash, recycling, organics, green waste, doesn't matter. That's considered a tipping fee at the facility we take it to.
So dump fee?
Yeah.
All right.
You could call
They
it
just-
that.
Somebody came up with a funny term called tipping, huh?
Yeah, we've used it in the industry because we tip our trash trucks over and dump the.
Okay, all right. So that explained that. So, and, you know, I share the concern that they need to know what the amount is. So are we at there's some question of what the amount is. Daniel said it was $42.80 if everything here is accepted and adopted. Is that it, $42.80?
Yes.
Okay, and I commend you for the very detailed read you did of this document, and I agree it was confusing. But that's the clarification, 4280, if everything is adopted. Okay, so this is our time for comment, I understand, right?
Absolutely.
So there's actually, as was explained by staff, 3 items that are in this 218 process. And the first one is this state mandated composting plan, or what they call it, organic waste recycling. And I agree with the speaker who said it could not have come at a worse time. I know these things go through the process, and when they put this in place, many years ago, to get to this point, we've been hearing about this for quite a while, but they've hit it at a time when we have extraordinary, unheard of inflation and cost pressure. I think the state would do well to delay this until these extraordinary times settle down. We don't have that power as a city council, but I would sure like to take some type of formal action to express that to them, that while we might share the goal, this is a huge burden on people that are already trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet. The CPI adjustment is the next part of this, and that covers increases that are borne by the trash company, Desert Valley Disposal. Just like we're paying more for gasoline, they're paying more for the fuel for their trucks, and I'm sure it's a big major expense, and I don't think they've caught up to that expense. And I want to share, I want to double down on the mayor's comments that Desert Valley Disposal has been a great partner here, and I don't think there's any big, robber barons that are running the place that are, taking our money. This has been a great company. All the things I get complaints about, their service isn't one of them up here. So, Chris, thank you for your service to this community. So the third item is also, just like the state mandated program, that's something the legislature decided to impose. Well, now this third item is a new program, a proposal by staff and this council to go to curbside junk pickup at your home once a week. And that has an added cost to our property tax bills. Right now, you get the quarterly pickup program where 4 times a year you can put out an old sofa or mattress or something big and bulky that won't fit in the can, and they'll come by and pick it up, and that's at no charge to everybody. And then I think you get 3 extra times a year, and I think for most residential homeowners, that's enough. I don't need any more than that. I don't need it every week. But we're coming up with this new program that's going to go through and apply that, and it's adding to the bill. And I don't think that we need to go ahead with that part of that here. And I think this council would do well to say, the same as I would say we need to tell the state legislature, is that these are not times to be adding anything more to the property owner's tax bill than is absolutely necessary. I think everybody knows we've got inflationary times going, but this is very discretionary. There's other ways that we could handle this. A lot of this stuff that's being paid for with this bill is from the multifamily residents that are dumping a huge volume of stuff that's getting dumped. So anyhow, I really think that when we go to go forward with this, the council should drop that part of this off of the proposal. And if we're going to go through with any type of rate increase, it would not include this new voluntary program to go by everybody's house once a week and pick up stuff. I'd love to have that, but it's not something that we can afford right now. What, gas is just about to go to $7 a gallon, right? Then the other thing that comes into play, and I think we have the discretion always to lower the amount that we charge. We don't have the discretion to increase it. But the city charges a franchise fee to Desert Valley Disposal. That's, their right to come in here and operate, and we charge them a fee, and that fee is 19%. They don't pay that. Goes into the bill, we all pay that. Other Coachella Valley cities' franchise fee, as I've researched it, is 10%. There's a couple that are at 12. And I think this council, in light of all this extra extraordinary stuff that's going on, all these extra hardships, and to offset some of the impact of this state mandate, needs to take our franchise fee, which I think was necessary when we're a small little town having a hard time getting by, but we need to take that with this action tonight, take that franchise fee down from 19% to 10% to get it in line with the other cities. That's what we can do as a council to mitigate some of this. And so that would be what I would like to see in a motion. That would be my proposal as we go forward. And I put that out to my fellow council members as a challenge to let's do what we can to hold down the cost. That's all I have for now, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Pye.
First, I have a question to staff and maybe Mr. Cunningham. In the staff report, we have 5 things that we have to assure, and they're also in the proposition, proposition. How do we do that?
Yeah, I believe you're talking about the findings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. I just spoke to Chris earlier today, Chris Cunningham from Desert Valley Disposal. We have our own procedures for that we have to get audited, and we do get audited through the state for our programs for this. Now, Desert Valley Disposal does our own internal audits, and we as a city can also audit their program or their fees anytime in the future. And we did discuss it with Desert Valley Disposal, which are completely open to doing that, at least a third party for us.
Okay. A question. I have a question for him. Should I wait? You said we can reduce this new tax voluntarily. There's ways for us to do that. Would you state how? 1. 2, if we reduce the franchise fee from 10 to, how is that going to affect the new process that we put forth so far as getting currently the pickup that we're getting done throughout the city? How can that, or will it affect that fee? That's my questions to you.
So my understanding, briefly, my understanding of the franchise fee is that goes into the general fund. That doesn't go to directly into the, and it's a fee that's collected from the trash, people have their trash bill, and then comes into us as just same as we do with all the other utilities that are in here with the franchise fee. So I don't think it impacts our ability to fund the program. I could be wrong on that one, but.
No, you cut one thing. We have a thing where we have people collecting trash now, because people are putting trash wherever they want, and we have that fee. Could that possibly affect that fee in going up? And so then we're right back where we started.
I'm not entirely sure I understand your question, but all I know is that we've got fees that are going up significantly. I've already stated my piece, and so I don't think I can answer your question right now. Maybe staff can handle that one.
Then answer the other question. The question was the volunteering, the extra fee that we're charging now.
But we don't have to do the bulky item, the new program, the new bulky item pickup once a week in front of the homes. We don't have to implement that now. We can hold off on that.
But you said there's other ways that we can do that.
Yeah, there's other ways that we could handle the...
And I'm asking, what is that?
Wow, that's been a lot of discussion with Chris and staff over, months. Different ideas that I have. It all has to be worked out. But the, it's too much to get into in this situation. It could be 100 different ways you can go about doing that. I got a couple that I would prefer, but one would be mainly to collect that wherever the bulk of the problem is coming from. If it's large apartment complexes that are causing the bulk of that, certainly it's not the homes that need pickup once a week. So, but it gets into a much longer discussion, I think, than we want to have here.
I understand. You just brought that up.
Yeah.
You want us to go with you, and I'm trying to figure out how do we do that.
We just hold off on the new program, recognizing that there's all kinds of extraordinary expense that people are being hit with right now. We're looking at inflationary times like we've never seen. And I would love to go back, a few years when we don't have this, and to do something like this and cheer it on. But I don't think they can afford it. We can't afford it.
Thank you. I think it brings up a lot of questions. I certainly think that us five up here can be creative in how we wrangle trash collection. We can sit here and say that, it's going to solve our problems with people dumping, but it's not. It hasn't. There's free pickup now. People can call at any time and get a free pickup of any bulky items, but people still manage to dump. So it's not going to take care of our problems. I know it's going to create a big burden on our residents to have to pay an extra fee. One thing I would like to see right off the bat is that we vote on these items as 1, 2, 3 and not all together. I'd like to see 3 different actions take place. Of course, number 1, we can't really do anything about it because it's a Senate bill. As far as the bulky items, I would say that we can look at different ways where we can manage where all this bulkiness items, trash is being thrown, what area, maybe just taxing multifamily condos, apartments, wherever the biggest problems, we can just do a special tax on them. Or even looking at the city yard to do maybe major trash collections on twice a month or once a month or whatever. I think we can put our brains together. I think we have the intelligence up here as us five to say, let's sit down and iron this out. But mainly, we can vote on these things. 3 different votes would be helpful for all of us, I think.
Some comments. Listening to the debate up here, I'll need some questions answered. What is the bulky rate that they're charging?
$3.95.
Is that the $3.95 on top
Yes.
of the, okay. So it's $3.95 per month, so $4 a month, let's say, 4 times 12 is $48 a year. That's for the extra bulky pickup, and that means unlimited, Chris? Or is there a limit to it also?
For that particular program, there's a limit, right? So what that is if the council chooses to go this route, we'd have to order a truck, and I'm talking about the big truck, the ones that are running $500,000 now, with the 2-man crew. And that basically is going to be them once a week going down every street on collection day and collecting up to 2 bulky items per house.
Okay.
Every week.
Every week, so you get 2 times 4 is 8. Just make sure I'm math right. You get 8 bulky items a month is what you get.
Yes.
Okay. Compared to right now, we have 4. You get two call-ins, and you get 4. So you get a total of 6 pickups per year if you want to utilize it.
Yeah, with the quarterly quarterly cleanups as well. So that's an additional to that.
So you get that as additional. I'm just trying to figure out, as it's been stated up here, you know, the inflation right now is huge for everybody. I think it hurts everybody. Whether you have money or you don't have money, it's killing you right now. It's very hard on our family. We have a huge trash problem in our community, and we've done a lot to try to change that by giving people the opportunities they have now. But we still find and have to pick up a lot of trash. We have a truck that drives around our community in quadrants, segments, whatever you want to call it. And I think Chris gets more calls. That truck heads out of different directions all the time, picking up stuff that's dumped in our deserts all the time and on the side of the roads. And so I think we're just trying to come up with some ideas. So we could, if you want to take those items separately, and I need to ask the city attorney this, can you bifurcate these items and take them individually? Is that okay?
Yes, we can. We could go ahead and bifurcate the items after we find out whether or not there's a protest.
Okay. Yeah. So if we don't meet the protest, and we could bifurcate the items. So the only thing we have control over is we don't have control over most of it because it's mandated by the state. We don't have to adopt it, but we'll be out of state compliance, and then we'll get a letter, and we'll be out of compliance, and there'll be other ramifications down the line from the state coming with transportation and who knows whatever else they can hold back from us in the future. So I don't think we have much choice on most of this. So we do have a choice on one. One would be the bulky items. The question is having the residents have an opportunity, and I know there was a comment made by, we need to work closer with our multifamily units. Maybe that's where most of the bulk is coming from. We don't adopt this, that's fine. This cost is not paid and bared by us, the individuals, for the extra pickups. We go back to the drawing board and we try to figure out with our multifamily dwellings on how we're going to get them to clean up their properties more, and not, what happens then is you have landlords that are going to pass that buck on. So then you do go back to putting more pressure on the lower income. This is my mind thinking, because lower income rents and leases homes in our community and multifamily dwellings. So they get the buck passed to them by the landlord themselves. A lot of our units are owned by investment companies. Investment companies look at their portfolios. They look at what is costing them, and they're going to pass that on in their rents and leases and those types of things. So I don't know if that's a solution. Am I willing to pay $48 a year to be able to have multiple pickups? I think I could. I know it could be a burden on others, and maybe others don't need that many pickups. But is it a tool to hopefully defer some of the dumping that's going on along our streets? So I don't know. This is where you go back and forth. We know now that if we do adopt this, we won't have this cost pass through to the residents until January 1. Now I'm getting heads shaken out in the audience, and I've just heard that from staff. Can we reiterate that? Is that true or not true?
Yeah, that's true. For 1383, we order the trucks in advance because we knew the 11th hour was coming, knew this is a state mandate, so we had to order the trucks. With the supply chain issues that we've had, they're usually 8 to 10 months, but we're looking at 18 months now. So we're not looking at delivery of those trucks until December of 22, which means we're not going to start that program until we have those trucks January of 23. So the residents will not be charged for any time that program is not in place. The same goes for the bulky item collection if council decides, whatever they decide. If you decide to go that route, we'd have to order that truck, all right? And that, again, it may be less time now since things seem to be easing up, but I'm not sure. Right now it's 18 months. That would mean that you wouldn't want to start that program until we had the equipment as well.
So adopting these fees today doesn't mean they go into effect today. Just at least we know that some of these fees won't be implemented until January.
Correct.
And some further out. Now walk with me on this one. I don't know if I know it's public information on how much you pay the city for your franchise fee. Mm-hmm. Can you tell the public what that is?
Yeah, it's an average of 19%, as Councilmember Betts has said. We pay in quarterly, and it's usually around $800,000 to $900,000 a year.
So let's say $900,000 a year. 19 to 20% of that, someone help me with the math, is probably around 15 or 150,000. Jeffrey, come on, help me out here. You knew I was going to come to you on this. 900,000. Okay, so if we were to lower from 19% to 10% for your company to only pay 10%, are you going to give 9% back to the pay raters? Or would you be able to?
If that's the wish of the council, then that would go back to yes, that would take the rate down, absolutely.
Okay, so 9% of 900,000 is 100,000, right? Yeah. Thank you. Don't let me do math. $81,000. So $81,000 is basically what Councilmember Betts is proposing that give back to Desert Valley Disposal, who could give back to the ratepayers, is $81,000. So you split that between, I don't know how many accounts you have, and we can give back a few dollars to every person.
About 10,000. 10,000 accounts, but then you have commercial, so you got to average it out, but yeah, there's about 9 to 10,000 residential accounts, and then there's commercial accounts as well.
About $8 a person they can get back. Okay. So that's the numbers we're working with. So I wanted to put those out there. I wanted to make sure everybody understood that. And, you know, we could give $8 back, or we could just continue to have it collected and go into the programs. Those are things that we're facing here today, right? Okay, so the control we have is one of the requests was that we lower the franchise fee from 19% to 10%, and the other request is that the city council consider not implementing the bulky pickup cost of $3.95, which is about $48 for a single family resident. Actually, that's on the multifamily dwellings too, is $3.95, right, for a bulky pickup?
Yes.
So basically all the way across the board. All right, so that's what we're debating tonight. All right, got it. You didn't know, I already said that we can bifurcate it. I have no problem doing that for you guys. Unless there's a strong opinion not to do that up here. I have no problem bifurcating those, so that's where we'll go from there. Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you asked the question that I was going to ask either Mr. Cunningham or Mr. Porras, and that is, following on Mr. Betts' lead, about if we reduce the franchise fee from 19 to 10%, what does that work out to as far as a total savings and then a total savings per account? And you're saying roughly $81,000, and we divide that out by the number of accounts, and it came down to about $8 a year or a month? About $8 a year if we reduce the franchise fee. And as I understand, the reason why our franchise fee is as high as it is compared to some of the other valley cities is because the bulk of our trash pickup comes from residential instead of commercial, because in other cities the commercial tends to pay more of the freight on overall garbage, and it's not even an actual really good comparison, because Palm Springs gets 2 weekly pickups, whereas we get 1. And so help me out with the franchise fee there. If we're following, is that going to affect a significant savings to our residents if we were to reduce that franchise fee?
Well, it's definitely going to have an impact on the rate and decrease it for sure. Franchise fees are set by city, though. It doesn't have anything to do with residential, commercial base. They are set by city and usually paid for staff, for the reporting they have to do, for roads they have to maintain, for our large trucks to be on them. That's what the franchise fee is for.
And the franchise fee goes into our general fund for general overall city purposes.
Well, a franchise fee is to pay for roads and those types of things that our big trucks drive on.
Correct.
But it goes into our general fund.
Ms. Marahi, I don't mean to interrupt everybody. Ms. Marahi, she has something she wants to add.
I do with respect to the franchise fee. I wanted to just say 2 things. Number one, the franchise fee is really not up. I understand where the council's going, and I do respect it, but the franchise fee, it's something, of course, that the city council could do as it wishes once it comes to the franchise agreement and actually discussing that fee. But more importantly is if the city council decides to lower the franchise fee, then the methodology upon which all these rates were based gets skewed. And so if we change the methodology upon which the rates were actually calculated, we would have to do the Proposition 218 process over again, because it was all based on a certain rate methodology that was actually included in the noticing and included in the base of the rates.
I think you beat me to the punch on that, the city attorney, because my next question to Mr. Cunningham was, we can't arbitrarily, under my understanding, reduce the franchise fee until the franchise is up for renewal. And when is the franchise up for renewal?
Well, hold on one second. Let him answer that question, and then you can go off of that.
You know, the council, barring anything from city attorney, the council has if the council has the desire to bring down the franchise fee, they can do that. Now, I can't speak to the Prop 218 issues, but that's her realm. But no, you don't have to wait till the end of the contract to change the franchise fee. You can.
Okay.
The city has the will to.
That was my question, is if we had to wait till the franchise was up for renewal to discuss the franchise fee, so we don't.
That'd be a legal question. Maybe she can answer it.
So it's part of the rate, so it's fine for this discussion, but the franchise fee is actually contractual, and so the actual contract, the franchise contract, is not before the council at this time. So I would actually say that the franchise fee itself, once the contract, obviously the contract would need to be amended if it's actually part of that franchise free contract. So the contract would need to be amended. Currently, there is no amendment of the franchise agreement before the council at this time. That said, the 19% obviously is a factor in determining fees, because it does have to do with fee calculations and part of the methodology.
But we could, not as part of this apparently, but we could at a future meeting, even though the franchise contract is not up for renewal, we could bring it up for renegotiation at another time.
Absolutely,
We
just
don't
like
have to
any
wait
contract.
for it to be up.
I would need to review the provisions of the contract, but just like any contract, if there's an agreement between two parties to amend a contract, I don't see why a contract could not be before this body.
Okay, thank you. Those are the questions that I had. So I still want to do some comments, but I will let you.
Thanks. While this conversation is going here, so we would, if we take that course to lower the fee in this action, we're going to be giving direction to staff to prepare whatever documents that you say are needed for a future reduction in that fee. We're not, there's nothing here that precludes us from considering that. If we're talking about taking the bulk item out of this, the 218 process was also calculated on that. So if we take that out, if we lower the franchise fee, we're lowering the amount of the 218. And unless we don't have any discretion up here at all, we might as well just vote and get to it. But we have discretion here on each one of these items to decide what we're going to do. If we don't want to fund this state mandate through these trash rates, we could decide just to pay it out of the general fund and not increase the amount to the ratepayers, which is going to be a real hardship on the general fund, and it's just not going to work. So, we're all in agreement that we don't like that thing, but or maybe some of you do, I don't know, but we don't like the mandate from the state, especially an unfunded mandate. So we got to fund it somehow, but the option we chose was to fund it through the 218 process. So everything up here is discretionary for us to decide to do. And I don't share your opinion that we couldn't include that in a motion as a means to offset the cost that the ratepayer is going to play. And then, Gary, I'll jump in here just quick, and I'll say, if we're going from 19% to 10%, I understand the need for City Hall to get money, but to me, that's a good thing. We've got all this other pressure going up, a little bit of movement down. We're still taking a big jump, but we got to do something to try and offset this. And I don't think it's going to break the city to adjust that and at least provide some sort of relief. So I'm sorry to jump in on that last bit there, but I appreciate you giving me the time to jump in on the other conversation.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So if we were to go from a 19%, and that equals roughly $900,000, and cut that to 10%, that's roughly in half. So I think what we're looking more is a cost of about $450,000.
Well, what are other cities doing? How do they survive on 10%?
Was my math way off on that?
That's what I wanted to kind of throw out there.
If I could say something, so the franchise fees, that 19% is based on the revenue.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on a second. Staff, guys, it echoes up here when you guys are talking. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So that's based on, 19% of the revenue collected by DVD. So if DVD collects $900,000, if DVD provides $900,000 to the city in franchise fees, that's about $4.7 million they get in revenue. So if we reduce the franchise fee from 19 to 10%, that means the DVD would only provide $470,000 in revenue to the city, which is a loss of like over $400,000 to the general fund, which is the council's only discretionary funding spending.
Sorry to put you guys on the spot when it came to math. I was just trying to figure out where we would be losing, but that makes a lot more sense now that we're talking this through. That it would be, close to half since we're paying 19%. That makes a lot more sense. So that's a big number, a big chunk to really look at. I think it's been very clear that the attorney's given her opinion. It doesn't mean we have to always take it. It's just an opinion. That's what she's paid to do, is sit there and give us the best legal opinion she can. And she stated that we probably shouldn't open up that can of worms in this discussion, but it's be up to you guys as we move forward. Gary, you had a few more questions?
I don't have any more questions, I don't think, but I appreciate the clarification on the because I'm thinking we're doing the same thing with some rough math on my phone, and it didn't quite add up to 81,000 either. So I appreciate that. Let me just make my comments. We'll go through and finish up. I take your comments to heart, Mr. Betts. I really do. The 19 versus 10 versus the cities that are charging 12 on their franchise fees. I do think that is something we should look at. I'm going to agree with the city attorney. I'm sure you're not going to like that, but I agree with her that this is probably not the time to do that because everything else is also predicated upon that. And I also will agree with your comment that the Desert Valley Disposal has been a fantastic partner with the city. I know others have said, why don't we go to other firms? I know because I can call up Chris and say, Chris, we've got a couch dumped off on the side of the road here, and the next thing I know, within an hour, it's picked up. Somebody's got to pay for that, and we all, whether it comes out of the general fund or it comes out of our trash collection fees, it doesn't happen for free, and Chris and his company don't do it for free, and I wouldn't expect them to do it for free. And they've been fantastic partners in helping to keep the city clean. And the city is looking 1,000% better over the last course of 4 or 5 years as we have worked with DVD to develop other programs for picking up bulky items and desert dumping. But that being said, the way we've been working it now has had an obvious impact. And I'm very, very sympathetic to the inflationary cries that we're all paying. $395 works out to $48 a year. That's not a small amount to a lot of people. I'm willing to entertain the idea of postponing the bulky item fee, which I'm sure shocks a lot of people because the biggest thing I gripe about is desert dumping. But I'm also very sympathetic to the costs, and a lot of these costs we cannot change. The inflationary costs, the fuel costs, and particularly the organic waste costs. And when it said that comments fall on deaf ears, I'm going to tell you right now they don't. The biggest number of emails and calls and things I get are about trash in the desert, dumping in the desert, and crap out there. And we've got to figure out a way. Everybody wants our town to be clean and our deserts to be clean, and we've got to come up with a way to do that. And a lot of people don't like the organic piece. I don't like the organic piece. I came from Seattle in 2015. We had it up there. It was a disaster. We had 3 bins. You got to pay for it. Food waste sits out there, and in Seattle it doesn't get above 80 degrees, so it doesn't rot. You know what an organic waste bin in 120 degree heat is going to smell like after a week. So I'm not excited about this in the slightest. And the deaf ears aren't on this council up here. The deaf ears are the people in Sacramento who mandated that we all do this. So the gripe should fall with them, and the protest should fall with them. And I will second your motion, if you make one, Mr. Betts, that we as a council should pass a resolution and draft a letter and send it to them up there and ask them to delay the implementation on this. That being said, I don't think we have a way out of that right now. But I pay these trash fees too, and they hurt. But I want to have a clean desert, so I'm willing to entertain the idea of delaying the bulky item one for a year or so and keeping the existing program that we have going with DVD and the roving truck and and the call for demand ones and the quarterly ones, and see where we can go from there. But the other two, there's not a lot we can do, and I think that it would behoove us in the future to look at that franchise fee and see if there's something that we can do to bring it back down more in line. That's all I've got.
Mr. Mayor, you looking for a motion?
Not yet. I wanted to see if these two have comments, and I'll come back to you.
I just was gonna just say that we should, I would say table 2 of the items until maybe October, till we can get with staff and maybe work something out, and then just vote on the Senate bill. I'll be more in line to sign any agreement that we can go to we'll send the mayor to Sacramento to lobby for us to.
Mayor Pro Tem.
To see what we can do to get out of this or postpone it. So thank you.
Ms. Pi, anything?
We can't postpone this.
If you postpone it, you would have to renotice the whole thing and start over from the beginning. So this isn't an item that you can table. You would have to just vote it down, and then you would have to go back to the drawing board with it, unfortunately, because it's a public hearing and a 218 thing. So, am I correct? I know that was a little lay there. It wasn't the legal opinion.
The actual hearing itself can be continued to a date certain, but obviously SB 1383 has been alive for a number of years, so I would just caution the city council on actually, postponing it. But the public hearing can in fact be continued.
But that would be the whole public hearing, right? You couldn't.
Yes.
You couldn't take bits and pieces of this, vote on some of it, and table some of it.
I would take the entire public hearing because that's how it was noticed.
And I just want to say, and I'll go with you on the bulk, but remember, we may get charged more if we do that.
Before you make a motion, I just make a quick statement. I believe the single-family dwelling cost should be paid, and the reason I think it's a portion of a tool that will help people put their trash out where it's needed to be picked up properly. I think our multifamily dwellings are a big component to the fact that we get a lot of dumping into our deserts and on the side of our roads. And if we did enough outreach and knew that the investors and landlords were paying this fee, that the renters and leasers would hopefully, at least a good portion would put their dump where it needs to go. Now, what is going to happen is they're going to dump this somewhere else, and we are going to call it in, as my Mayor Pro Tem walks with his dog every morning for a couple hours, and we're still going to ask DVD to pick it up, and we're still going to take it, and we're still going to get charged a fee that Desert Valley Disposal is going to impose on the city because they have to pay the tipping fee, correct?
Yes.
So wherever that trash is, it's still going to get picked up, whether we're paying for it here or we're paying for it out of the general fund, which is your taxes. So either way, it's going to be paid for. I think this is a tool that could help alleviate some of that problem in the future. But I understand where everybody stands today. That's just my opinion. I don't think we have a choice on the first two, or on the how do I split this up, Madam City Attorney? Before I get to it, hold on. Before I get to
It's a 218 question for you, since you were asking that.
Okay.
If we were to take out the bulky items thing, would we have to redo another 218 hearing to redo it? And so
that's where I was going with my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We going to take this in segments? How would we take it in segments?
You can take it in segments. These were the maximum rates that the city could have gone. So what I'm hearing, depending on the motion maker, it would be to adopt the resolution excluding the bulky item rate, is if that's something that the motion maker would want to do.
And the only way to bring that back would be another 218.
Correct.
Now, before we get to all of that, I need to ask the city clerk.
Right.
Is there a majority protest?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My office received a total of 345 protests.
That includes the protests that were turned in tonight. And that does not obviously meet, excuse me, I guess I'm stuck in my throat. And to meet a protest would have been how many?
5,300.
Thank you. So the protest is not met. Now you can go to a motion.
Okay, so as things sometimes go here, I'll make a motion and it won't get a second. And I'm pretty much set on, let me go through this, and was just my suggestion for a motion before I actually make it would be that that we would adopt the 1383 organic waste recycling method for funding that, but also sending a letter to the state encouraging them to delay implementation until this hyperinflationary period is under control. That we adopt the CPI adjustments, that we not implement the new city bulk pickup program again until this climate of hyperinflation is corrected. And then I would also want in that motion that we reduce the franchise fee from 10%, from 19% to 10% to help mitigate some of the costs that are being added to the property owners on the on this 318 process. 318, 218, and 218. Sorry. So if that would be my motion, and I don't agree with it. So if
making the motion, you're just.
So that so we don't get into something where it'll make a second. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. That would be my motion. So if somebody else wants to make a motion and doesn't want to include that, then I can vote accordingly.
Well, you've made the motion, so we
It's clear. That's the motion. Then, if you're going to go with it, I'll take.
I just said we would need a second to discuss. So you can make the motion, discuss it,
Okay,
then you
well,
can withdraw it
I'm
if
just
you
letting you
choose
know
to.
what the motion would be if I was going to make it.
I need to know, are you
going
going to make the motion?
I'm guessing I probably don't have a second on that one.
Well, why don't you ask?
Do I have a second on that one?
You have a second.
Okay, you have
there
a
we go.
second, now it's open for discussion. All right, so the motion on the table is to support the Senate bills, Assembly bills.
Well, not support. wouldn't
State
be exactly the
legislation,
word.
there we go, we'll make it generic. State legislation, but it's to bring back the franchise agreement for discussion, to lower, and to.
Actually, I believe the motion was to lower it.
Okay, and then to obviously write a strong letter to Sacramento, and I'm just trying to paraphrase, and to not implement the bulky pickup costs. Does that encompass what your motion was?
Yes, well, but there's always a time that we can lower the cost of fees and expenses to our residents, and this is a time.
I get nervous when we do things that aren't exactly what our city attorney has advised, and so with that said, I don't want to get into a position, even though Chris speaks for his company, he still would have to go back to his attorneys to get advice, and I mean, there's not much
I'm not
advice.
sure anybody's
when you're going to get the fee lowered, I get that, but I do think there needs to be a little more study on this. That's $400,000 of fees that go to our roads and to issues that deal with these franchises such as DVD driving through our city. So I think there'd be a lot more discussion, so I could not support this motion.
I would, go ahead. I would agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I can support everything in that motion other than the part of lowering the franchise fee, which I think should be brought up for a discussion at a future date.
Yeah, again, I appreciate that. I disagree with the city attorney, obviously, and I think we got to take whatever steps we can to mitigate this very horrible 1383 increase that's coming along and the CPI increase that's coming along. It's not fair to ask him not to it's impossible for him not to get something out of us on that one.
Let me put this in your ear and think about this. So even though Chris is the nicest guy at Desert Valley Disposal, and he's going to agree to the 19% going to 10%, and states it should go back to the pay raters, we don't have that in a contract that it's going to. He can get a greedy CEO, which he doesn't have there, decides they're going to keep the money and go somewhere else with it. So I think having a contract written in a way that, that would propose that fees go back.
This is directing staff, sorry if I can interrupt, this is directing staff to initiate that process as part of this discussion, overall discussion on what we're going to be charging for fees. So
you made it very clear you wanted it lowered.
Okay, so that, Mr. Mayor, maybe we'd have a vote, and if it gets voted down, that's fine, and then
Let me ask, we have more opinions over here, and then we'll come back to that.
We'll let them talk then. Go
I
ahead.
think, I second this because it gives us more time to be proactive. It gives us more time to look at things, how we can always raise it back or go to another part and charge a new development or whatever. So I think it gives us time to be creative and see what we can do to meet in the middle here. So that's why I approved it, and if we can sit with staff and sit with us and say, okay, where do we come up with the rest of the money? So if it's temporarily, we move it to 10%, it's temporary. 2 years from now, we raise it back up, maybe halfway. Gives us time. We are in different times especially here in the city, and I would hate to have the residents burdened with these fees. So I just entertain it.
Just buy.
I prefer to do what's best for us, and this last piece of sending the letter and reducing the 10%, I think should happen separately and not in this motion.
Mr. Betts, final words before we take a vote.
Let's suggest we give this one a go at a vote, and then.
All right, well, I need you to push move.
Oh, okay, I'll do
And
that.
I need Mr. Nunez to press second. Do I have any other comments? All right, please vote.
Motion fails with Councilmember Pai, Mayor Pro Tem Gardner, Mayor Mattis opposed.
I'll entertain a second
I'll
motion.
make a second motion, which would be to adopt the findings as presented in the staff report to implement the fee for the organic waste, implement the cost of living increase, and to I'll defer to Ms. Pai. I think we do need, I don't know if we need a motion to do it, but I do think we need to make a statement to Sacramento. I don't know if it needs to be something we voted on, but I would leave it at that. So implement everything and then not implement the bulky item fee.
Wait for it to come up on the screen and I'll let you move it. Yeah, he is. Technology makes our life so much
He's
easier.
typing as
but
fast as he
slower.
can.
I'm watching him type, and it shows up on the screen. Amazing.
Okay.
All right, is there a second to this motion?
I believe, Jen.
I have was it Ms. Pai that seconded? I couldn't see on my screen. Okay. All right, so it's open for debate again. Your motion here is to adopt the resolution excluding the bulky items with a sentiment that we send a letter. We don't have to vote on the letter. We just know we want to send a strong letter to Sacramento.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so that's open for discussion again. The only thing I would like to say is I disagree with it. I think we do not need to exclude the bulky at this time. I think it's a tool we need to use for picking up more trash in our community, but I understand the reasons why, and this time I think you could not exclude it but defer it how long until you start how long would it be until you start that program?
I wouldn't be comfortable starting that particular program if you chose to go that route for a year, at least July 23.
So if we don't do this today, we'll have to renotice everything next year and come back to talk about the bulky items. So right now, none of the mandated fees for the state of California are going to be implemented till around January, and then the bulky item wouldn't be implemented till next summer.
Well, I would accept a friendly amendment to reflect that.
So and then if there was, so let me ask one more question before I do that. If for some reason before they decided, no, you couldn't do that, because if we implement it, you're counting on purchasing the vehicles and everything for that, so we couldn't come back and just say, no, forget it, after it's already been voted on. So I want to hear more debate first before I make any amendments.
Okay.
Comment on the, there's other ways to fund that pickup, that bulk item pickup. And right now, this method relies on all the homeowners paying for a weekly pickup. If I'd moved an item out of my house every week, well, my wife would be happy on a few of them that she wants me to get moved to the curb. But after that, I'm going to start running out of items pretty quick. And it's not coming from the single-family residences that need to put this out once a week. We had a problem somewhere else, and I think there's a plan. I'd be willing to sit on a subcommittee if you want to try and work that out, how we come up with that proposal to cover that. But I really think, and once you put this in motion, let's talk about a friendly amendment. Once you put it in motion, it's going. It's there. It's not gonna be undone. We're not gonna have a motion to do this something and then back it out. So the decision to go ahead with keeping the bulky item in there would be a motion to go ahead with that. So,
Completely understand.
and my understanding right now as the motion stands is that the bulky item is not part of.
That's what it says on the screen, yep.
Okay, good, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments?
Oh, I just want to say one other thing. I'm really torn on this one because, there's good and bad in this thing, and so it's very difficult.
As I understand it, we're paying $15,000 a month anyway now on picking up bulky items.
And that's not going
to go down.
No, it's not going to change.
But I sympathize that you're right. It's not the single-family residents as a rule that are doing it, although a fair amount of it does come from that. A lot of it does come from the apartment complexes and the renters and things like that. But, under the inflation pressures that we're under right now, and the fact that we're doing this now, and, we are already paying out of the general fund, I'm assuming, the $15,000 a month to cover this, and we have been doing that. I have been working with the Mountains Conservancy and the Conservation Commission to do a MOU similar to the one we did with the police department in patrolling the conservation land, to helping them fund some of the pickup in the conservation lands. I still think we can get by without the bulky item one for now.
All right. Any more comments? Okay, please vote.
It's you, boss.
Motion passes with Councilmember Betts and Councilmember Nunez opposed.
All right, thank you if you were here for this item. Thank you for coming out tonight. We are going to take a 9-minute break, 8-minute break. We'll come back at 7:55. We have a 1 minute warning, 1 minute warning. If the council can make their way back to the dais. Council, can you make your way back to the dais, please? (7:55), if I can get staff and council back to the dais, please.
So we got a new air conditioner in our house.
All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order, and we're going to move to public hearing item number 3, which is a resolution to amend the general plan zoning map to correct a typographical error to reflect the proper zoning designation for the area bounded by Yucca Drive, 12th Street, Palm Drive, and Mesquite Avenue. And number 2, an ordinance to amend the general plan zoning map to be consistent with the general plan land use map for the same location. Mr. Burseril. Was that close?
That'll work.
Burseril?
I understood.
Say it. You say it. Say it.
It's a Besseril. It's kind of like that's for real, but Besseril.
Besserelli. That's what we want to do.
I like it.
I don't know. That's what I always try to do to him. I apologize. It's an inside joke. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Today I have a zoning map amendment. So here is the ordinance timeline. We found a discrepancy in the zoning from a developer that actually came forward and was proposing a project. Looking into it, we realized there was a discrepancy. We did an overview of the code, drafted the ordinance, brought it forward. It went to Planning Commission May 10th and was approved, and now it is in front of you. The proposed amendment to the general plan update and zoning ordinance is to amend the general plan zoning map to be consistent with the approved general plan land use map. The previously adopted map contains several typographical errors which have been revised and reflected in the proposed corrected general plan zoning map, Exhibit 1 in the staff report. The consultant who drafted the map, MIG, submitted a letter stating that the general plan land use map is correct, and the map that needed revision was the general plan zoning map. The ordinance being proposed is to adopt the corrected general plan zoning map for the parcels with typographical errors found with the general plan zoning map, which are located in the neighborhoods bounded by Yucca Drive, 12th Street, Palm Drive, and Mesquite Avenue. The corresponding zoning district should be visitor serving mixed, VSM. Since the area predominantly consists of existing single-family units, the VSM is the appropriate zone district that should be applied to the area and thereby establish consistency with the visitor serving VS land use designation. The VSM zoning designation allows for both visitor serving and residential uses, although not concurrently on one property. As such, it's recommended that the area be designated as VSM under the general plan zoning map. On the right-hand side, here is a small overview of the area. The black line that is around the area that is just below the Mission Lakes Boulevard emblem there is the area that we are speaking of. Staff recommends that the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, California, adopt a resolution of the City Council amending the general plan zoning map to correct a typographic error to reflect the proper zoning designation for that area bounded by Yucca Drive, 12th Street, Palm Drive, and Mesquite Avenue, and 2, introduce for first reading and read by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, California, amending the general plan zoning map to be consistent with the general plan land use map for the area bounded by Yucca Drive, 12th Street, Palm Drive, and Mesquite Avenue, correcting a typographic error in the general plan zoning map with amended section 5 as stated by staff. And that concludes my report, and I am here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Can't even say it here. All right, staff report's been done. Entertain questions from staff, from council. Anyone have questions?
I have one, Mr. Rissell. Can you tell me, does this change the voting districts at all?
No, it does not.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Eric, right?
Yes. Yes.
Do we have the option to make this just visitor serving or only visitor serving mixed?
Visitors, VSM visitor serving mix is the designated area. I would have to refer back to our attorney, but I believe that is the correct land use designation that needs to be for that area.
Okay, well, I'll save my comments for later, but that would be up to debate whether that's the correct use for it. But I understand your context there. Thanks.
No other comments at this time. We'll open the public hearing. We'll take testimony in favor of this item. Anyone? Take anyone opposed to this item? I'll take public testimony from anybody in neutral position. This will be the last call for any comments. If you missed in favor, opposed, or neutral, this is your last option. I will close the public hearing at this time. We'll go back to City Council discussion.
Nothing, but I'll make a motion that that we adopt an ordinance amending section 17.180. Oops, sorry, wrong one. To amend the general plan zoning map to correct a typographical error. Shocked that there would be a typographical error. We didn't use their word spell correct, I guess. So, for the proper zoning designation for the area bounded by Yucca Drive, 12th Street, Palm Drive, Mesquite Avenue, and make the amendment to the general plan zoning map be consistent with the general plan land use map in that same location.
Wait for the motion to come up on the screen. You'll press your button.
I'll second.
I'm going to get the discussion in just a second. I need to get a second first. Let me get a discussion. Let me get a second first, and you can give a friendly amendment. Is there a second? Okay, you've got a second now, please. Go ahead.
The second recommendation.
Your mic, please.
The second recommendation.
He did add that in.
Yeah, I did do that.
Yeah, he mentioned both of them, 1 and 2.
I gave you new hearing aid batteries.
All right, so motion second, any more discussion?
Yeah. So, you know, long ago, the hoteliers were getting upset because we have this very special area of the hot water zone, and that they've saw a lot of housing getting built over it, and we weren't preserving anything for the new hot water spa hotels. And the visitor serving zoning got put in place, but it created a problem with somebody who had a single family lot wasn't able to build on that because it could only be a spa use, but you couldn't put a spa on a single family lot, so they were just kind of trapped. So that needed to be corrected, and my understanding was when we went through the general plan, that my conversations with the consultants were that any lot that's too small to occupy a spa hotel could have a house on it, even though it's in the visitor serving zone, to be fair to those people, but that anything that was a parcel large enough for a spa hotel would be preserved as visitor serving. And I'm really surprised to see that this ended up as visitor serving mixed, because what could happen here is you could have 11 homes go on this one parcel where there could be a brand new boutique spa hotel. So I'm kind of in a perplex. I understand it's, great job on the motion, and I agree with you that we need to correct the typographical error, but I don't know how this got missed for me, that we aren't preserving the visitor serving area where new boutique spa hotels can go. So I'll ask the city attorney, and I'll probably listen to our advice this time. We don't have the option to go to, do we have the option to go to visitor serving, I guess it'd be commercial, and not visitor serving mixed?
At this point, no, because I think all the environmental analysis and everything that was actually done was in fact for visitor serving mix, and it's really just correcting that typographical error. If we did want to bring this back and look at it, that's something that we could definitely do as another general plan amendment. But for now, it's not something that we could just change the zoning on, because all of the analysis was done for that one.
Okay, so we could come back with a zoning change amendment, and so that's what I would like to see happen, and then I'll go ahead and go along with everybody else on this one. And
To go with that, was anything passed when you said it was a long time ago? Was anything passed, or was anything considered?
we created the visitor serving zone, and that got a whole bunch of people with single-family lots caught up in it. No, you can't build it unless it's, and so then we went through with the new general plan update. I think we corrected for a lot of that to make it fair for people that, you know, wanted to build a house there. But it's just the large lots. I think that took care of it, but somehow this parcel here got missed. So I'd like to open this back up at some point in time. We can do, what, 4 a year? So I'd like to use one of our 4 to do that if the council would so desire, to just bring up that discussion.
Could we add that to the motion? I would be willing.
That would be up to the motion maker.
No, I think we do periodic.
We already do, yes.
So we'll wait for the.
I think just if staff will, you know, get some discussion with staff and Councilmember Nunez, if you want to put that forward as something to bring to the council through the
I don't even think you
procedures.
need to bring it to council, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to stop you guys from doing anything. The council's already, staff's already seen this as an issue, and they're already doing that type of stuff. I would just make a recommendation to talk to them first. If you think they're not doing the work, then please bring it back.
Okay, good. We'll go that way.
We got direction.
Everybody good? All right, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously. The motion includes first reading of an ordinance of the City Council, City Desert Hot Springs, amending the general plan zoning map to be consistent with the general plan land use map for the area bounded by Yucca Drive, 12th Street, Palm Drive, and Mesquite Avenue, and correcting a typographical error in the general plan zoning map. The ordinance will return on June 21st for second reading and adoption.
Thank you. Item number 4 is an ordinance amending section 17.180.048, allowing marijuana entertainment facilities to be located in any downtown district, commercial district with a conditional use permit. Eric.
Mr. Mayor, before we get started, my wife and I own a hair salon that's right in the middle of this district. There's some question whether I have to recuse or not based on it being a leased or rented property, but to be safe, I'm going to recuse on this item.
Thank you very much. We'll wait for you to leave the room. As soon as you leave the room, you may give your report. Good to go.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bringing forward today is marijuana entertainment facilities, a proposed ordinance. So the ordinance, we received interest from developers, numerous developers, overviewed the municipal code, got with our attorney and management, and drafted the staff report and ordinance. It was taken to Planning Commission and approved, and now it is in front of you. City of Desert Hot Springs is working on innovative ways to bring unique experiences to the downtown district. The local cannabis culture has evolved over the last few years, resulting with an increase in cannatourism. Staff is proposing a change to the zoning code to allow for marijuana entertainment facilities in the downtown district with the approval of a conditional use permit. On May 10th, 2022, the City of Desert Hot Springs Planning Commission recommended that the City Council adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, California, amending Chapter 17.180.048 marijuana entertainment facilities, and Table 17.12.01 to allow for cannabis entertainment facilities in the commercial downtown or CD zone district. So the police and code compliance have both given input. They have been included in conversations pertaining to marijuana entertainment facilities throughout its involvement. There are no additional concerns from either police departments and code or cannabis compliance. Each project will have to be routed for conditions from all departments, including but not limited to police department, code, cannabis compliance. And also, cannabis retailers have not created a significant impact, additional impact on our law enforcement personnel. And this was obviously ran by our chief. So where is the downtown district is a question we get asked, and more specifically, what are we speaking of today? On the left-hand side, we have the land use designation being commercial. There you see Pearson and Palm, our cross streets. Those areas kind of show you where the commercial land use designation is. On the right-hand side, you have the zoning designation, and that's a little bit more specific as to what we are talking about today. If you look on that chart, you see CD commercial or downtown commercial. It's kind of a darker red. In those areas, you can see the parcels that are actually going to be affected from this. This is a little bit more of a zoom in on the specific parcels that are affected or that are included in this. So as you can see on the left-hand side, it is cut off, but that would be a cactus. And on the right-hand side, where it kind of tapers down and ends there, is mesquite. The areas just north and south are go up to First and down a little bit on Palm. So cannabis economic development is part of our general plan. It helps us not only capture local dollars, but as well emphasize the priority industries that we've created in our general plan, one of them being cannabis, the other being commercial and retail. By reading both of these, this ordinance does help address some of those. With that being said, staff recommending that the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, California, adopt and introduce for first reading and read by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, California, amending Chapter 17.180.048 marijuana entertainment facilities and Table 17.12.01 to allow for cannabis entertainment facilities in CD commercial downtown zone districts. And that concludes my report, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain questions for staff. Any questions from the council for staff?
I just had one. Eric, thank you for the report. Very good, very detailed. Do we have any developers looking to push on this, or is this something that we're changing to meet in the next couple of years or few years?
No, we have already received interest from numerous people, prospective developers that are interested in the downtown, not only going into existing facilities, which would help fill up some of those vacant buildings that we have, but as well develop potential new buildings, which is why we brought this forward to you.
Very well, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll open the public hearing at this time. We'll take any public testimony in favor. Would anybody like to come forth and speak on this item? Anybody opposed? Anyone in neutral position? This is the final call for any comments on. Oh, please, come on. Sorry, I was moving.
Hi, my name's Kendra Wester. I just actually have questions for this. Is there going to be a limited number of cannabis fun facilities? And what exactly is that entertainment facility? Is that a bar that allows cannabis?
You can ask the questions and then we'll write them down. We'll answer them after I close.
And that's it?
Awesome, thank you.
Just curiosity.
You got it. We'll get them answered as soon as I close the public hearing. Anyone else like to speak on this item? All right, we'll close the public hearing at this time. I'll let staff answer those questions.
Good evening. So the first question, the proposed ordinance does not specify a cap at this point for the cannabis entertainment facilities in the downtown commercial district. And then to answer your question about what is a cannabis entertainment facility, so essentially it would be an entertainment facility with entertainment being the predominant use and cannabis consumption as an ancillary component. So think entertainment facility that would serve alcohol as kind of an entertainment focus, that would be the same idea. The difference being that for our cannabis entertainment facilities, they would also be allowed to have a storefront retail attached to it as well to serve their guests that are there.
All right, we'll go to council comments. Mr. Gardner first.
Just wanted to clarify a little bit with what Ms. Wilms was saying. So in a sense, this is not a consumption lounge that is similar to what is in Palm Springs and Cathedral City. You have to have, and if I remember right from the ordinance, it was a certain percentage of entertainment, or?
So it's not a certain percentage, but when we brought this forward, we brought it forward with the idea that entertainment had to be the predominant use. So for example, it couldn't be a lounge and you just throw a pinball machine in there and say that's entertainment. No, it needed to be, entertainment is the predominant use. Think comedy club, something like that. And instead of serving alcohol, they're serving cannabis. So the kind of test that we used when we created this and brought it forward to the council was somebody that maybe was a non-consumer of cannabis, would they frequent this facility just for the entertainment factor? Yeah. So I hope that answers it. Okay, perfect.
And then following up with that, and still under state law, under the Alcoholic Beverage Control, is you cannot combine cannabis and alcohol. So somebody who was to open an entertainment facility would not be allowed to serve alcohol if they were also allowing cannabis consumption as part of it.
Correct.
They would have to choose one or the other.
Correct. On the same premises, it would not be allowed.
Is it consume or sell alcohol?
Both. Both. So on the same premises. Right now, that's the way state law is written. But we did work into the ordinance when we brought it forward that it would mirror state law. So if ever the state did modify their conflicts with cannabis and alcohol, we would automatically step in and switch over to match state law.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt an ordinance amending section 17.180.048, allowing marijuana entertainment facilities to be located in any downtown commercial district with a conditional use permit.
I'll second.
There it goes.
There's a motion.
Come on.
It's, can second it? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously. This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City Council amending Chapter 17.180.048 marijuana entertainment facilities and Table 17.12.01 to allow for cannabis entertainment facilities in the commercial downtown zone districts. The ordinance will return on June 21st for second reading and adoption.
Move to the administrative calendar at this time. Mr. Betts is back in the room. Item number 5 is the appointment to the Planning Commission to fill one vacancy for unexpired term. Mr. Serrano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Ted Meyerhoffen resigned from the Planning Commission on May 11, 2022, resulting in one vacancy. Pursuant to the municipal code, if vacancies occur other than by expiration of term, the vacancy shall be filled by appointment of the council member who originally appointed the commissioner being replaced, with ratification by a majority of the city council. With that said, Councilmember Betts is designated to appoint his replacement. In addition to what's required under the municipal code, per council policy, the name of the proposed commissioner shall be published along with the agenda, and the proposed commissioner shall appear at the council meeting when the appointment is being made. My office posted the vacancy notice on May 11th. 3 applications were received and are included in your packet. The proposed commissioner from Councilmember Betts is Durwood Cook, and I believe he is present to answer any questions that the council may have. That concludes my staff report.
Great. Mr. Betts, anything to add before I take public comment?
No, first I just wanted to thank Ted Meyerhoffen for his service on the Public Safety Commission. It's a tough decision when things come along in your personal life that you don't have time to continue in that role. So I want to thank him for his service. And then I just, after going through this process, I'm confident that Durwood Cook has the abilities that we're looking for and on this planning commission, so I'd recommend him make a motion to approve his appointment.
Before you make the motion, I must take public comment. Anyone would like to speak on this? Mr. Cook, you're here tonight to answer any questions from the city council during the debate portion of it, but you're also welcome to make comments if you'd like before that takes place. Oh, you're going to push the button. Thank you.
I've lived in DHS for 12 years, and I look forward to the opportunity to help the city grow and elevate its visual attractiveness. I appreciate this opportunity to use the experience that I've already gained in these same areas in other municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, please, if you choose to make the motion, please do.
Motion to approve Durwood Cook to appointment to the Desert Hot Springs Planning Commission to fill the unexpired term.
All right, there is a motion on the table and a second. This is a time to take any debate or questions or comments. I'll start. We had 3 applicants. One was, first thing I always do with the applicants is I look at the duration of time that you've spent in the city. Some people get ambitious and want to be involved really quickly. The first applicant had been here for less than, I think, 4 years. The second applicant less than 2 years. You look at some of the qualifications, and after looking through the qualifications from the 3 individuals, I believe Mr. Cook had the most qualified, most qualifications. Man, tongue-tied tonight. So I would support this. I think that it's the only thing that I caution you with. It's hard to be an advocate for issues that are our own personal issues and then come on this side of the thing and try to be from the 30,000-foot view and then support the whole community in whole. So sometimes that's challenging. You have a lot of smart staff here to work with, and please ask the questions that you need to ask to get the answers you need before making some really, really big decisions for our community.
Certainly, absolutely.
That's all I have. Anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Cook?
Just want to say congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we haven't voted yet, so not congratulations yet, but no, I'm joking. All right, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, you don't have to hang out for the rest of the meeting if you don't want. So.
Listen, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity.
Awesome, thanks. Thank you for serving. Item number 6 is the public improvement agreement for Brown Dog Health and Wellness Project conditions, conditional use permit number 20-20. Mr. Haker?
Actually be our Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This is for the public improvement agreement for Brown Dog Health and Wellness. Planning Commission approved conditional use permit 2020 for a cannabis retail storefront at 13570 Palm Drive. The developer has completed all life safety items and most of the required items. The developer has requested a temporary certificate of occupancy in order to open for business. Several outstanding conditions are required in which the developer shall post a faithful performance bond. And this is a picture of the site plan that was approved by Planning Commission. The remaining conditions, COA 19, the annexation to the Community Facilities District, COA 21, the removal and replacement of the asphalt concrete within the parking lot and the alley, COA 23, removal and replacement of 2 driveways with new ADA compatible commercial driveways along Ironwood Avenue, and COA 20, removal and replacement of all damaged concrete sidewalk, removal and replacement of any broken or cracked curb and gutter, and installation of landscaping along project frontage. The developer shall post a faithful performance bond in the amount of $50,000 as security for completion of the remaining public improvements listed. The remaining public improvements shall be completed within 18 months of the date of the agreement with no time extensions. The applicant has already signed the agreement and submitted the bonds for improvements. Are there any questions?
Before we open up for questions, we're going to take any public comments. Would anybody like to speak on this item? I see nobody coming forth. We'll open up to questions. I have one before we start with anybody else. This is a bond that they've obtained, but they're not the property owner.
Correct.
What would we lien if they didn't we would just pull their conditional use permit, right? If they didn't finish, because this is a temporary permit?
Yeah.
So we would pull that permit back?
Yeah, we could go ahead and pull the CUP. In addition to that, we could call the bond.
Okay, got it. Question?
Somewhat similar to what you were asking, Mr. Mayor, is, we've had projects in the past do this and then never complete their COAs. And we're allowing them to open, and I get that. Are you comfortable that this bond and the improvements, and I'm looking at that list of improvements, and that's a $50,000 bond is not going to cover even the cost of paving that parking lot. So where is our recourse if they don't do it?
Based upon the cost estimate that they provided us, the amount was sufficient to cover those.
It is.
Really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I had, Ms. Ferris, I had a question. So are we going with Dog Brown House? Because on the side of the wall, it's a totally different name.
Because that was the owner, Brown Dog was the owner, and then there's a new tenant in there now.
But it's the same owner?
Same owner of the building.
It's, the original applicant was Brown Dog, so right now, just for everyone's clarity, it's stated as Brown Dog, but the dispensary is called Farm to Lab now.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Yes.
So the condition of approval 19, annexation of the community facilities district, they're going in to one of the buildings, or are they taking over the entire facility? They're a leaseor or a leasee, whichever it is. They're leasing the property. So how do you get the owner to agree to enter into annex into a community facilities district?
Correct. It's part of our conditions of approval, yeah.
Huh?
It's part of our conditions of approval.
They're able to agree on behalf of you've
That's
got an
correct.
agreement from the,
We haven't gone that far yet.
so this is telling them that they have to go get that from the owner of that property.
Correct.
I think it's a little out of the ordinary to take an existing building that's had multiple tenants over the years, has already been, and to try and get, a new community facilities district. I know we do it when you got a brand-new development going in on a vacant piece of land, but I think it's a little unreasonable to ask for that one. The ADA, isn't there certain things, are they grandfathered in with the ADA improvements? How do we delay those?
They're not, it's only 2 ADA driveway approaches. The ADA driveway approaches are not ADA compatible.
Okay, so it's not in compliance. Have they met the construction cost amount that requires the update to the ADA?
The estimates that we received, correct.
Are we allowed to delay that for 18 months?
Well, on our right of way, yes.
Okay, all right.
So what happens when they're open? Is the ADA, are they going to be?
So the building itself to the parking lot, everything's ADA compatible. The driveway approaches going into the parking lot are currently not. They're existent.
Okay, so that'll
Yes.
come along when you're doing
Those are
the new
required
paving of the
to
parking
be
lot and everything else.
That's correct, yeah.
And that property there has, over the years, looked good, started bad. A bunch of us put pressure on the owner to clean it up, at least mow the weeds. Can we put something into this agreement, even, I would love to, I can't wait to see the rest of this landscaping get done, because it's needed it. The owner had off and on done a good job of maintaining what was there. Can we put something into this agreement that they must maintain the landscaping in an acceptable condition?
That's the purpose of the CFD, or annexing into the CFD, is to ensure that they would maintain the landscaping.
But they're annexing into the CFD right away?
No, that's part of their conditional approval. They haven't gone that far yet.
Okay, so all I'm saying is I want to see something in there that they maintain this. And then there's all kinds of signage that's mismatched all over that building. Their sign looks beautiful. It's a proper channel letter, backlit, proper sign. The other ones up there are like a mishmash. I just saw today, 1, 2, 3 flat panel signs to make up a big long name. I'm not even sure it matches the size. And then there's a gap between each one of the panels. It just looks atrocious. And I'm guessing they probably didn't get signed off on that one yet, because I can't imagine anybody on our staff would sign off on something that looks like that. But it should have been one big, anyhow. All right, so I'm happy that the staff has got the bond. That is a performance bond that we hold in our hand, and if they don't do what they're supposed to, then we go to who's the bond issuer? Is it a typical licensed bond agent, or is it some friend that has a building loan?
We received it, but we can't remember who's on
Is it
there.
AIG? Is it somebody
I
on
don't
that?
know. I honestly don't. We don't have
Safer,
it
or
in
one
front
of those
us.
people?
I'm not sure.
Okay, because we've had some problem in the past with bonds drawn on less than reputable lending institutions that failed us.
That was during major recession.
Well, no, that was on the Mission Lakes Marketplace, but that's what the bonds are for, is to make sure that when there's a recession, that we get this taken care of. So I need to make sure that those bonds.
Probably questions you probably should have asked before this. Probably questions you should have asked before
Well, you
this,
know,
so you can get the answers.
I guess I'm of the opinion that the public has these questions and benefits from the discussion here, so even if I know the answers, sometimes
I don't mind if you repeat the question, but probably something we could have asked before so we could get you the answer.
Well, I might have asked the question before, you don't know. Sometimes I ask the question up here
Well,
for the
they just
benefit
said
of the
they don't
public.
know, so I'm
Okay.
assuming you didn't, so.
Okay, so we'll, I need to make sure, if there's this motion that needs to be encumbered in that motion, that this is a bond drawn on a legitimate company that provides that type of bonding. I imagine you would do that already, but we've had a problem in the past, so was it once bitten, twice shy?
If you're done, make the motion.
I'm not gonna make the motion, go ahead, I'm tired. You go ahead, I had a bunch of other stuff on here, but I don't want to take more time. Go ahead and make the motion.
Mayor usually doesn't make motions, so I'll defer to someone else.
I move that we adopt the public improvement agreement for Brown Dog Health and Wellness Project Conditional Use Permit number 20-20.
I'll second it. Since Gary did such a good job of making it.
Any other
read pretty
comments? Questions?
Yes.
I think you just turned your mic off, sorry.
Whereas number, in the proposition, whereas number 3, it needs to say 18 months.
Staff understand what she's pointing to?
That is correct. And if you could talk about the contract that he signed, I believe, has that term.
Correct, yes, 18 months. Mhm.
Okay.
But it's noted that we will need to change the,
Recital.
the recital to 18 months.
Okay.
It's not necessary for the motion.
It's not in there.
Is it necessary that we encompass that in the motion, or can staff correct that?
No, I'll go ahead and change it because it actually would reflect the bond itself as well.
Is that satisfied?
Okay.
Okay. Please vote.
I just had a comment.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just question for staff. Did we reach out to the property owner? Was he willing to go ahead and do the asphalt construction on his own rather than doing the whole process? Do we have history with this landowner? Was he cooperative in the past?
So
The landowner or the tenant?
The landowner.
So the first thing is there was original CUP holder, and that was with the original project. And that has now transferred to the new CUP holder. The CUP holder, that's the one that we've been in contact with, who's fully responsible for the improvements. Now, we did communicate with both the CUP owner, which is a tenant, and the property owner, and that's between them to settle on the cost for the improvements. That's not something that the city gets involved in.
Right.
But we did send both of them that these are the requirements, and they both are aware of them, yes.
Okay.
Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Move to item number 7, resolution supporting ocean water importation to the refill the Salton Sea while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Mr. Soriano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On May 3rd, 2022, Chuck Parker from the Salton Sea Coalition submitted materials requesting that public agencies impacted by the decline of the Salton Sea adopt resolutions supporting ocean water importation, including taking into account greenhouse gas emissions as a long-term solution to restore the Salton Sea. The City Council has previously adopted resolutions declaring its support, Resolution 2019-003, which was in support of the MOU between counties of Imperial and Riverside on the Salton Sea, and the Second resolution was 2020-049, requesting that the Salton Sea Management Program allocate $2 million of the $507.5 million in unused and available funding for restoring the Salton Sea for an immediate comparative engineering review of the ocean water import proposals accepted by the state in 2018. The Salton Sea Coalition has stated it is scientifically imperative to choose a long-term plan for the Salton Sea that takes greenhouse gas emissions into account. Planning committees have not explained the process or criteria from comparing the non-importation proposals with the ocean water importation proposals, nor have they stated that they would evaluate the potential greenhouse gas emissions of the various plans. Finally, there's no public hearing scheduled during the months between now and December to receive public comments. Chuck Parker with the Salton Sea Coalition is here to answer any questions that the council may have. With that, staff recommends that the council consider adopting a resolution declaring its continued support for ocean water importation to fill the Salton Sea while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And that concludes my staff report.
Do I have any public comments? Chuck, anything to add?
Thank you. I want to thank the staff for creating the report and the council for putting it on the agenda. I want to praise the work that Russ Betts has been doing on the CVAG Energy and Environment Committee. He has played a key role in winning over the other city councils that are represented there to the idea that what we want is a healthy Salton Sea where people can go and enjoy recreation, where the wildlife can live, and where the area being full of water will protect us from blowing dust. And all of this can be done cheaper than some of the proposed projects that are being put forward as alternatives. And I have to say that the cities, all the cities in the desert have provided leadership on this, in spite of the fact that most of the officials that are elected from this area to represent us in the legislature, at the county level, and in the governor's office have continued to favor the old solutions that were put out 15 years ago to build small habitats, to plow the land, to create some kind of dust mitigation, and to basically let the Salton Sea dry up. And I don't think we can afford that. I hope that you pass this resolution, but I don't think it'll be the last time that we have to come and ask you for your support, because I think the next step after, if they do adopt a plan to import water, the next step would be to try and remind them that in 2020, this council and other cities called on the state to start an engineering study to make this process move faster. So thank you very much. A special thanks to Russell Betts on this. The people in town here should know that he's been fighting for this on a valley-wide basis. So thank you all for considering this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion before we take a motion?
So there's been a lot of discussion on this one, hours long, meetings going extra hour over time on the Salton Sea. And despite these cities making these resolutions in support, it doesn't seem to be moving in that direction. We have some real champions in this discussion. I appreciate the compliments. Chuck, you're a leader on this one, but you've got Nancy Ross, Dennis Woods, Nancy Ross of Cathedral City, Dennis Woods of Palm Springs, Linda Evans of La Quinta, and a few others that are all pretty steadfast in saying, this is the third resolution. When are we going to get this one sorted out? So I don't know, maybe at some point in time, Mr. Mayor might want to get this one on the agenda of the executive committee and get a decision out of them which way we're going on this thing. And it's a big, huge problem. I think we're going to solve it, but I think that this really goes a long ways to moving this issue and then continuing to say that we want all options looked at. And Chuck and his group bring up a really important point about the greenhouse gas emissions and those impacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one quick question, Mr. Betts, since you're taking the lead on this one. I don't know if you can answer it, maybe put it out there, but importing salt, I mean, I understand, and you're right, bringing in ocean water is the cheaper and better alternative for fixing all of this. The question I've never had anybody answer me when I've asked it is bringing in a saltier ocean water into a not as salty Salton Sea. That was a tongue twister. How does that affect the current ecosystem, because you're changing
let me answer
the
that for you.
pH balance in the mix of the water? I'm just curious.
Okay, well, it's a good question, and Chuck will jump in if I get this one wrong. Let me take a stab at it. The ocean water is much less salty than the Salton Sea. So as soon as you start bringing in ocean water, he's nodding, yes, I got this right. As soon as you start bringing in ocean water, you're going to decrease the salinity and improve the environment of the Salton Sea. And that'll happen for at least 6 years while it's filling up. And then at some point in time, you go back to where's the salt go as the water evaporates, and it stays there. Now, there's talk from Arizona to solve their crisis of putting in desalination and bringing in water. There was a desalination plant it was Newport or somewhere that just got denied by the Coastal Commission, but they're looking at it. So I don't think desalination to deal with that, but to your immediate question, it'll improve things a whole lot by bringing in.
Thank you, because you're actually the first person that's answered that question when I asked it.
Did I get it right?
And I'm gonna give you a somewhat facetious suggestion, though. Years and years and years ago, when I grew up in Utah, the Great Salt Lake had risen to such a level that it was flooding the city. So the state put in 2 giant pumps to pump the water out of the Great Salt Lake into the West Desert out there. The pumps are still up there, so maybe Sacramento can call up Utah and buy those pumps and bring them down at a cheaper cost.
All right, I got no other questions up here. Sounds like you have a real bipartisan agreement at the CVAG level. Again, this comes to local levels. If the higher ups in Sacramento and DC were to solve the problem, there wouldn't be a problem anymore. All right, moving on, please vote. I need a motion.
Motion to approve the resolution, adopt the resolution. Here, you should read this one. You're good at reading this one.
Why don't we just go with staff recommendation? There we go. All right, we got a motion. Is there a second? All right, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Item number 8 is Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy Grant Award Agreement. Mr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. November 8th of 2021, the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy released a request for proposals seeking applications for projects that fulfill the objectives of the Climate Resiliency and Community Access Grant Program. Those objectives were to enhance desert resilience to climate change, and foster conservation of the desert as a carbon sink, promote equity in access to outdoor recreation throughout the valley, or improve natural resource management on existing conservation lands. On February 10th, the city submitted a grant application for the Desert Hot Springs Trails Conservation Outreach and Education Program. This program consists of 2 components, a youth recreation outdoor hiking program and a citywide public outreach program. The youth recreation outdoor hiking program will feature 4 outdoor events per year in which students from the Desert Hot Springs Rec Center will be educated on outdoor hiking and outdoor activities and be taken out on an outdoor hiking adventure. The citywide public outreach program will feature informational advertising, trail safety and directional signage to help the public find trails and paths and learn about hazards, permitted uses of the trails, and the environmental features they will enjoy during their outings. On March 14th, the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy approved the grant funding in the amount of $128,000 for the project. The project is estimated to cost a total of $200,000, with the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy grant award of $128,000. The remaining amount will be provided by city funds. This project is scheduled to begin July 1st of 2022 and will be completed on June 30th of 2024. That concludes my staff report. I will gladly answer any questions. Thank you.
Do we have any public comments?
And actually, I forgot to give my recommendation.
Oh, please do that.
My recommendation is to authorize the city manager to execute a grant agreement between the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy and the City of Desert Hot Springs to receive grant funding totaling $128,000 for the Desert Hot Springs Trails Conservation Outreach and Education Program. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Any public comments? I see nobody coming forth. Mr. Gardner, is there anything to add?
Nothing to add. This is was one of the fun parts of being chair of CVMC, is we do give out a lot of grants, and we don't give an awful lot of them to Desert Hot Springs. And so this is a very interesting program. It was scored very high by all of the grant judges, and I'm excited to see staff implement it. So I will move that we authorize the city manager to execute that grant agreement.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a
I'll second.
Do you have any more comment?
I have an additional comment. I just want to say this is really, really fantastic, and kudos to all that brought this funding into the city for this very important program. Good job. Wonderful.
Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, no items pulled from the consent calendar. Do we have any other public comments tonight? See nobody coming forth. We will meet again on the 21st. The Planning Commission meets on the 14th. And our last meeting before summer break is July 5th. Please be safe tonight. We are adjourned.